On the evening of September 17, 2023, the quiet suburban town of Romaville, Illinois, became the scene of a deeply disturbing crime that shattered the sense of safety within the community. What began as a routine welfare check by local authorities quickly escalated into the discovery of a shocking act of violence that sent ripples of fear and disbelief throughout the nation.
Hey, I got a TV knocked over and a coffee table knocked over.
Alright, nothing in this room.
I'm saying the lights are off. It's 9 o'clock on a Sunday.
And no, there's lights on in the back room. You can see it through that second.
Let's go in the backyard real quick.
This one's open.
See if you can speak in the back. There's a window, right?
Yeah, 2 windows.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go this one out. This one, no.
Oh God.
I need more units here. Hold this.
Yep.
I got 2 dead dogs, TV's knocked over, and a coffee table knocked over in the front room.
Inside a modest home on Concord Avenue, 31-year-old Zoraida Bartolome, her husband Alberto Roland, and their 2 young sons, 10-year-old Adriel and 7-year-old Diego, were found lifeless. It was an unimaginable tragedy that would leave investigators and the public searching for answers. What initially seemed to be an inexplicable event soon unraveled into a complex web of deception, manipulation, and premeditated harm.
Units from 367. I'm waiting for at least one more to make entry. From a position of cover, please. I don't know if anybody's in there or not.
You got another door right here.
Hey, you know what? Hey, one of you guys holding this one of you guys holding the front.
There were no other side doors, right?
No, not that I know of.
Hey, Ron.
Yep. Here's what we're gonna do, okay? I'm gonna boot it. We're gonna go nice and slow, all right?
Yes, sir. You guys stay right on me?
Yep. I'm going over your right shoulder.
You watch our 6 as we move through the house, okay? Corey, come up here, cover this door, this window. Fuck, this lights is dead, god damn it.
Christian, here.
Door's open. Alright. Hold on.
Dispatch Romeo 315. 133 traffic.
Make entry, 32 drivers, please. Alright, Ron.
Yeah, right.
Alright,
Yep.
I'm with you, Ron. Romeo, please, anybody here? Move on.
Go.
Romeo, please, anybody here?
The investigation revealed a chilling psychological game at play, one that involved an intricate scheme of lies, mind control, and emotional coercion. The deeper authorities dug, the more horrifying the truth became. This was not a random crime. It was the calculated result of an insidious plot fueled by jealousy, paranoia, and manipulation. The unsettling sequence of events began when concerned family members noticed something was off. Calls and text messages to Zoraida and Alberto went unanswered for hours, an unusual and troubling sign. Zoraida's mother and sister grew increasingly anxious as the silence stretched on, knowing that the couple was always quick to respond. Even more alarming was the fact that Alberto had failed to show up for his shift at work, a highly uncharacteristic absence that further fueled their growing fear. Unable to shake their dread, the family contacted the Romeoville Police Department, urging them to check on the household.
I'm calling for my daughter, Zoraida Bartolome. She lives on Concord Avenue, Romeoville, Illinois, and we haven't heard from her or her husband or her children during the whole day. No answering the phone. If somebody can go by the house and check them, because the husband, they called from his work that he didn't show up to work. And he never, he's always at work.
Okay, give me 1 second. Did you last hear from your daughter?
All day today, I haven't heard from her.
But when did you last talk to her? Yeah,
last night.
Last night? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to send officers over to check on her, and somebody will give you a call back, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank
no
you.
problem. That's what we're here for.
Officers arrived at the family's residence on Concord Avenue that evening, expecting to conduct a simple wellness check. But as they approached the house, an unsettling silence engulfed the property. The home, usually bustling with life, was eerily still. The absence of movement inside the house sent a shiver down their spines. Peering through the windows, officers immediately noticed signs of disorder. Furniture was overturned, a television lay broken on the floor, and various objects were scattered in disarray. Something was very wrong. The officers decided to enter the home, not knowing that what they were about to witness would haunt them forever. Inside, they were met with an unspeakable tragedy. 2 dogs, the family's beloved pets, lay motionless near the entryway, a grim prelude to the scene that awaited them. As they ventured deeper into the house, the true extent of what had occurred became painfully clear. The scene was one of unimaginable sadness and despair. Alberto was found in the hallway, his body showing multiple wounds, with his phone lying just inches from his hand, as if he had been trying to call for help in his final moments. Investigators later determined that he had been harmed first, leaving him no time to react or defend himself. The manner in which he was targeted suggested that whoever was responsible had planned this act meticulously, ensuring that he would not be able to escape or fight back. In the bedroom, Zoraida's lifeless body was discovered, her hands covering her face, an instinctive reaction to an unimaginable horror. The position of her body, along with forensic analysis, indicated that she had witnessed what had happened to her husband before she, too, became a victim. The psychological toll of her final moments was unfathomable. She had been a mother, a wife, a daughter, and a sister, and in those moments, she had been powerless to protect herself or her children. But perhaps the most heartbreaking discovery was that of the children, Adriel and Diego. The 2 young boys had been found in their beds, seemingly unaware of what had transpired. Their room, which should have been a place of warmth, safety, and laughter, was now a heartbreaking testament to an unthinkable act. Their toys lay untouched, their blankets still neatly covering their bodies as if they had been peacefully asleep, unaware of the danger lurking in their home. The innocence of had been shattered in an instant, leaving the community reeling with grief. Shell casings littered the floor, over 2 dozen in total. The calculated nature of the act, the lack of forced entry, and the deliberate attempt to stage the scene as a burglary quickly led investigators to dismiss the notion of a random home invasion. This was a targeted attack, one that had been executed with precision and without hesitation. But who would want this family harmed, and why?
Preliminary investigation leads police to believe this happened between 9 p.m. on Saturday and 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. We are not asking anybody to shelter in place. We are not actively looking for anybody in the area. But we do always ask our residents to have a good sense of self-awareness and to report anything that they might see as suspicious.
As authorities began their investigation, they uncovered a chilling pattern of threats leading up to the incident. Zoraida had confided in a co-worker that she had been receiving ominous messages in the weeks before her passing. Messages warning her to stay away from someone. These messages were anonymous, filled with cryptic wording, and conveyed a sense of imminent danger. The co-worker had urged her to report them, but she had downplayed their severity, never imagining that they would escalate into something so devastating. Alberto, too, had received a terrifying message just days before the incident. An anonymous sender warned him, "This will be the last time I say this, Alberto. This situation will cost you your family." The wording was deliberate, as if it had been designed to instill fear and compliance. He had shared his concerns with a close friend, questioning whether these were just empty threats or something more sinister. He had no idea that his life and the lives of his family were already in grave danger. It was now clear the family had been marked. But the most pressing question remained. Who was behind these threats, and what had driven them to such extremes? With this information, investigators turned their focus to Nathaniel Nate Huey Jr., a local security company owner. He had a past that was more complicated than it seemed.
What can you tell us?
I know about a relationship that stems from here.
Mm-hmm. So when you guys, are you married?
Like, well, like, yeah, but not paper. Like, I mean, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, yes, but like, we're not didn't go to court, they're like, official.
So like church married, but not paper married?
Yeah.
Okay.
Despite running a business focused on protection, Nate was legally barred from owning firearms due to a prior conviction. His background, which included legal troubles and allegations of controlling behavior, painted a picture of a man with a complex and troubling history. When questioned by police, Nate admitted to having an affair with Zoraida, but denied any involvement in the incident. He described her as his angel and insisted he would never have harmed her. However, his demeanor was inconsistent, shifting from defensiveness to visible agitation whenever investigators pressed him on his whereabouts during the night of the crime.
I gotta ask, did you have anything to do with this? Okay. I have to ask, and you know that your number is going to be in her phone, and we're going to find your text messages, and we're going to find that stuff, and I want to get a surprise later on that you guys are fighting or that there was something going on between you two or just three of you that I don't know about, Nothing like that.
Nobody was threatening anybody. We weren't fighting. Like, really, she's like fucking angel, you know what I'm saying? Like a sweet girl, so like.
I don't know. I mean, did she ever tell you, like, I'm worried, I'm scared of my husband, or I'm worried, I'm scared of a neighbor?
He didn't seem like threatening, because the reason like we were like really like taking everything like really slow is because like he just seemed like he was just a pretty nice, easygoing guy, but like just kind of one of those things of like, she's not happy, so it's, but like he was good to the kids and shit, so sort of like that.
When you say you guys were gonna like move forward, so were you guys like actively looking to try to get a place together or something?
Yeah, but like, it was slow, just kind of like, it's only a couple of months kind of thing, so
yeah.
like, I don't know how to explain it.
No, I get it.
A woman could explain it better.
Yeah, no, I get it.
His statements lacked clarity, and his attempt to provide an alibi fell apart under scrutiny. But his story quickly unraveled. His alibi was weak, and surveillance footage placed his vehicle near the crime scene during the estimated time of the events. Further investigation into his phone records showed suspicious activity, including deleted messages and multiple calls made in the early hours of the morning.
What we're asking for is consent to get the text messages off your phone between you and her, to Snapchat or whatever it is between you, so we have both sides of it. We're trying to eliminate you as a suspect, but...
It's on the computer, right? You can get it out of the computer.
No, we have to take the phone, we plug it in, we take it out, and we give your phone back.
Oh, I didn't have anything in there.
That's even better.
I tell you.
No, I believe you, but, well, yeah, just let me see it. And why I asked is the bosses called right away. They were like, we'd like to see if we can get the stuff, from your end back that way, and see if maybe maybe your husband got wind of it and pulled it off or something. So we just want to take a look. It on our side of it, we can get a search warrant, to go through the phone, and it's take a little longer. But on the fastest way would be consent, pull it off, and give your phone back. Than it would be to, and again, I explained to you earlier, I'm trying to eliminate you.
Yeah.
We have a deceased girl, and her last fling or boyfriend or whatever is you, and I'm sure that if you're an outsider looking in, who's your suspect? And so I'd like to eliminate that. I'd like to say, well, no, we looked through stuff. He didn't have nothing to do with it. We're done with it.
I guess I'd rather you guys just go on the computer.
I agree with you, but again, there's it would take us a couple hours to pull information off the phone that could eliminate you as a suspect, like right from the start. It's up to you.
It feels like you're pretty suspecting of me.
Well,
How about this? How about I come see you guys later today after work or something like that? Because I got fucking other shit in there that I don't necessarily want you to be like looking at. You know what I'm saying?
I understand. But again,
I promise you, I don't care what you look at.
No, it's not like fucking like freak shit like that or anything like that.
one last thing, before we drive out of the parking lot, will you give us consent to look in your Denali just for like blood or something?
There's no blood in my car. I haven't done anything.
I believe you,
We believe
but
you.
it's
100% believe you.
so now we're at the point where we just got to check off everything off our list so that there's, like I said, dude, you're in a relationship with her, and that's what we're going off of, okay?
Yeah.
And we want to be as thorough as possible, and part of being thorough is that we just want to take a look inside because.
That's just the route that I would rather go, guys. I don't mean any disrespect. I promise you that. I'm just saying, like, I think it's just better if, at this point, not speak to a lawyer. This is insane.
It's crazy. Yeah, I get you. I get you.
It's not, I don't doubt that you're going to do your homework. And I want you to do your homework. But I'm just telling you, like,
Yeah.
like you just had this fucking 4 people who have been fucking hurt.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I'm not fucking like, I don't know, walking myself into some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Like, it's like, it's kind of alarming just because you guys have come back so many times now.
I know. And trust me, we didn't want to do that. The bosses told us to do it. We weren't looking forward to doing that. We just unfortunately, got stuck doing it. So we're going to go. Like I said, you got my card. If you could really stop by today, we'll help out a lot. It'll get you off our list so we can be done with that.
I'll bring the fucking car. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
There's nothing like, you can swab and shit and everything. You'll see.
I believe in that.
There's nothing in my car.
I believe you, dude.
Like, I want to.
I believe you, man.
Yeah.
We want to solve this more than anybody, dude.
No, but I mean, it's not even, really, I'm not even, not saying, I need you to say I believe you. I'm just telling you.
As authorities examined his past, they discovered something even more alarming. He was not acting alone. There was another individual who had been playing a far more sinister role in orchestrating the events that led to this tragedy. Investigators initially suspected that Nathaniel Nate Huey Jr. had acted alone. However, as they delved deeper, they uncovered an even more sinister presence behind the entire ordeal. Hermelinda Palomo, Nate's fiancée.
Hello. Hi, Ermelinda. My name is Detective Garcia.
Hello.
From the Romeo Police Department. This is Detective Wagner.
Hello.
I know you know what's going on and why you were here. Okay? I know you were talking on the phone with your husband right now.
Husband
Okay.
or boyfriend?
He's just a boy.
Okay. Does he live here with you? How long have you guys been together?
2015.
Okay. We're investigating a murder. Okay? So, we have in our possession some phones, okay? And in those phones, we're doing what it's called a phone dump. So what happens is if anybody's talking on a text app that you can download, for example, Text Now, we can retrieve those messages.
Okay.
We have retrieved those messages, all right? We've read them. They're pretty clear that somebody's pretty upset at the victim, okay? Is there any way that these text messages are gonna come back to you? Or your name or your phone or anything associated with that? Okay.
So we'd like to speak with you without him present. Are you okay with it? I'm not saying go in the house, but we can talk with you out over here. If you're okay with that, we can go over by my car if you'd like.
Let me get my jacket.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
For over a year, Hermelinda had manipulated Nate into believing he was the target of an international crime syndicate. Through a network of fake phone numbers, anonymous messages, and fabricated online personas, she convinced him that dangerous individuals were surveilling him, and that Zoraida was a traitor who had put him in danger. She meticulously planted the seed of paranoia in his mind, feeding him lies until he felt he had no other option but to act.
Why are you scared of him?
Oh, I'm not scared. Well,
Okay. Why are you scared right now?
because when I called him, because I was scared, I didn't know where he was.
Okay.
He said, someone's following me.
Okay.
So I called and I called. And then I heard him say, why are you following me? Do you want to search the car? And then someone said to him, there are messages from you, and it's because her husband found out you were having an affair. And I didn't know that.
You didn't know what?
That he was having an affair.
Okay.
When did you find that out? Right now?
Just right now.
Okay. When's the last time that he had an affair? Because I know this is not the first time.
No, it's not.
Okay. When's the last time you knew he had an affair?
When we first started dating.
2015?
2015 to maybe 17.
You believe he's had multiple or many affairs while you two have been together?
I was hoping that they were done because I was hoping to trust, because you have to.
When you find out about him, like what happens? You guys get into arguments? Do you talk to the women that he's having affairs with?
No, for what?
I don't know.
No.
Leave your man alone kind of thing?
No, I'm too old for that.
I'm-
I'm 50 years old. There's no reason for me to, no. And quite honestly, it's not the female's fault. It's his fault.
Right.
So no.
Text message records and social media interactions revealed a calculated effort by Hermelinda to maintain complete control over Nate's perception of reality.
What about a man by the name of Alberto Rolon?
Have I ever heard of a man?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Have you ever met Zoraida?
No.
Have you seen a picture of her?
No.
So that name comes up to you because you saw it.
Well, really, that name stuck in my head because that night I thought, are you cheating on me?
Was the person calling?
They're calling in.
Okay.
More than once. And it was a long name. I thought it was Bartholomew, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long name, but
So when we asked your husband if he knew this person, Zoraida, he said, I've never heard that name. Why would he be lying to us?
I don't know.
Should I believe him?
I don't know. Please don't tell him I said
We're not
this.
going to tell him anything.
I thought that you guys said to him he was having an affair. Somebody said he's having an affair.
Okay. Well, that is probably very accurate.
You guys are here for something else and I'm making it about cheating and it's not.
Well, I mean, it could be. I mean,
So are you guys saying that you're trying to find out if he killed the husband?
We're trying to find out who was involved. So we're talking to everyone. We're talking to you. We're talking to him. We're talking to other people because, as you may be aware, people lie to the police, right? So we don't know who's lying.
Gotcha.
What I would like to ask you is, on either Friday or Saturday night, did he go out with his friends?
No.
did he work?
Friday night? No, he was with me.
Saturday night.
No.
She convinced him that he was constantly being watched, that Zoraida had betrayed him, and that if he did not act soon, his own life would be in jeopardy. Investigators later discovered that she had gone as far as using burner phones to send threatening messages to Nate, pretending to be members of a fictitious criminal organization.
So,
Did you go anywhere Saturday night then?
no, I was home. Well, it wasn't night, it was afternoon. No, I did not. I was here. I understand this is not about an affair, but for me, it's about an affair. I don't know what day you guys are looking at, but for me, he was home all weekend. Thursday to today. He goes to work, he comes home.
Do you think he's capable of taking someone's life?
No. I'm sorry. I know.
How sure are you of that?
You know, Nate is a lot of things, but what he tries to do is to calm people down and stop them from fighting. So for him to just actually fight with someone, no.
Remember when we first met you at the door, I told you that we had some text messages?
Yes.
with phone numbers, and we're going to find out who those phone numbers belong to. Is there any reason why those numbers will come back to you?
Are you sure?
Are those my numbers?
I don't know that yet. We're looking into it, but what I'm saying is there any reason why they would come back to you?
No.
As the walls closed in, Nate and Hermelinda realized they could no longer evade capture. Instead of surrendering, they chose to flee. They were tracked to Oklahoma, where they were seen purchasing burner phones, hair dye, and other items intended to alter their appearance. The evidence indicated that they were making desperate attempts to avoid detection. Authorities quickly closed in on them, leading to a dramatic high-speed pursuit on Interstate 44. Nate, behind the wheel, recklessly maneuvered through traffic in a last-ditch effort to escape. The chase ended in a catastrophic crash, rendering their vehicle disabled. As law enforcement officers approached, they made a devastating discovery. Nate and Hermelinda had taken drastic actions to avoid capture. Even though the primary suspects were no longer a threat, investigators continued unraveling the deeply unsettling layers of the case. What they found was nothing short of haunting. Hermelinda's psychological manipulation had turned Nate into a pawn in her elaborate scheme. She fabricated threats, created an illusion of danger, and led him to believe that eliminating Zoraida and her family was his only chance for survival. Hermelinda's influence over Nate was profound, revealing how deep psychological control can lead to devastating consequences. She orchestrated events from the shadows, weaponizing paranoia and deception to manipulate him into carrying out actions he might never have considered on his own. This tragic case stands as a grim reminder of how dangerous psychological coercion can be when left unchecked. The Romeoville case left a deep scar on the community. A family was lost, not to random violence, but to a meticulously planned web of lies and deceit. The heartbreak lingers, and for the town of Romeoville, the impact of this tragedy will never be forgotten. This case serves as a powerful reminder of how psychological manipulation can drive individuals to commit unthinkable acts. It underscores the importance of recognizing signs of control and coercion before they escalate into tragedy. Communities must remain vigilant, supporting those who may be vulnerable to such influences and ensuring that justice prevails. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth crime investigations and analysis. Your support helps us continue to bring these important stories to light. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.
We're talking about a very dangerous person that we want to get off the street. Is a person of interest that this, would not appear to us to have been a random act between strangers.
It's to the gruesome scene Friday at the Sunport. It wasn't one body found inside that vehicle, that red truck you see there at this garage. It was four people who police say were killed. We now know their names. We know a little bit about them as well.
On March 5th, 2021, what began as a standard security concern at Albuquerque International Sunport quickly escalated into one of the most chilling investigations in modern criminal history. Airport security initially reported an unusual, pungent odor coming from an abandoned vehicle in the airport parking garage. Officers dispatched to the scene expected to encounter a routine case, perhaps a vehicle left behind by a forgetful traveler or an item of luggage emitting a foul smell.
Kind of smells. Kind of smells, but not to decompose or anything, you know what I mean?
However, as authorities examined the truck, their casual approach soon turned into a full-scale forensic investigation. The vehicle, a seemingly ordinary pickup, was parked inconspicuously on an upper level of the garage. Upon closer inspection, the presence of multiple plastic storage totes in the truck bed raised immediate suspicion. As investigators pried open the containers, the grotesque reality became evident. Dismembered human remains, decomposing amid other debris, lay concealed within.
Just a safety factor to the community. He's already killed several people. He was on his way back on his own statement to harm someone else in this area. So we're very important to the public that we get him in custody right away.
What initially seemed like a single gruesome crime quickly snowballed into something far more sinister.
Unfortunately, that was the vehicle of our victim of the homicide in New Jersey. It was stolen from his garage.
The way the remains were dismembered, packaged, and stored suggested premeditation rather than a spontaneous act of violence.
He was highly dangerous and armed, and we were concerned for the safety of everyone.
The discovery ignited a widespread investigation that would eventually link multiple missing persons cases and reveal a cross-state murder spree that shocked the nation. As forensic teams worked through the horrifying evidence found in the truck, investigators began retracing the vehicle's origins and ownership. Soon they discovered disturbing connections between the abandoned vehicle and a series of missing persons cases in Grants, New Mexico, a small community located about 80 miles west of Albuquerque. Among those missing were 21-year-old Matthew Miller, 39-year-old Jennifer Lannon, and 40-year-old Justin Mata, all of whom had mysteriously vanished in January 2021. Matthew Miller's vehicle had previously been discovered abandoned at an apartment complex, but no further leads had emerged until now. Meanwhile, Jennifer Lannon had been reported missing by her ex-husband after a string of troubling events hinted at foul play. As investigators delved into these disappearances, they began to uncover a chilling web of connections between the victims. Their social circles overlapped significantly, particularly within local drug networks that were heavily involved in fentanyl distribution. As pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, one name consistently surfaced in relation to all of the missing individuals: Sean Lannon. Sean Lannon, a 47-year-old man with a deeply troubled past, soon became the primary suspect in what was now being investigated as a series of homicides. Lannon was intimately connected to at least one of the victims. Jennifer Lannon was his ex-wife and the mother of his children. However, as police expanded their search, they realized his involvement likely extended far beyond familial ties. Lannon had a history of erratic behavior, marked by substance abuse, financial troubles, and a string of volatile personal relationships. While he initially cooperated with police inquiries.
Hello?
Hey, is this Sean?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Sean, this is Detective Turney. How are you doing?
Good, how are you doing today?
Good, man. I've been trying to get a hold of your other number, and it's not working. So.
No, I apologize. Sorry.
So you know anything new?
No, I haven't heard anything. Nope.
Okay. Are you still around town?
No, I'm in Albuquerque.
Okay. How's the kids doing?
They're doing good. They're doing good. Just upset looking.
Living with Dee again, or still?
Yep.
Okay.
Anywhere on your own?
No, we've made some progress here and there. I've got a bunch of pictures of different vehicles. I'd like you to take a look at, see if you could help me identify them.
Good time tomorrow. I wanted to come in and I still have stuff I got to return to the school.
Okay. Tomorrow would be great. Just give me a heads up anytime.
You got it. All right, boss.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Apologize for the phone issue. I didn't.
We're good.
The other one was technically the one left that we had. So.
Okay.
Yep. Alrighty. Apologize now.
All right. What? Any idea what time tomorrow?
In the afternoon. I got to get a ride. So.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. Just make sure the kids are taken care of, and we'll go from there. All right.
Thanks,
we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Thanks.
Inconsistencies in his statements and his general demeanor raised immediate red flags. Surveillance footage would later place him at multiple locations associated with the victims, further cementing his potential role in their disappearances and deaths. One particularly alarming revelation came from witness statements indicating that Lannon had borrowed an electric saw shortly before the victims' remains were discovered. The forensic evidence from the crime scene showed that the bodies had been dismembered in a manner consistent with the use of such a tool, strengthening the case against him. Just as New Mexico authorities were piecing together Lannon's involvement in multiple homicides, another shocking discovery surfaced, this time in New Jersey. On March 8, 2021, 3 days after the Albuquerque truck discovery, law enforcement officers in East Greenwich Township, New Jersey, responded to a distressing crime scene. The victim, 66-year-old Michael Dabkowski, was found brutally beaten to death in his home. The circumstances of his murder bore the hallmarks of personal vengeance rather than random violence. Further investigation revealed that Sean Lannon had traveled from New Mexico to New Jersey just before the murder. He had flown there with his 3 children, creating an eerie contrast between his role as a father and the brutal crimes unfolding in his wake. Lannon's arrest would later expose his confession regarding Dabkowski's death. He claimed the killing was an act of revenge, alleging that Dabkowski had sexually abused him as a child. This confession, while deeply unsettling, also hinted at the psychological complexities that may have fueled his violent spree. However, authorities were careful in accepting Lannon's statements at face value. His history of manipulative behavior and his self-serving confessions suggested he was capable of distorting reality to fit his own narrative. Sean Lannon's killing spree came to an end on March 10, 2021, when authorities apprehended him in Missouri. At the time of his arrest, he was driving a stolen vehicle linked to the New Jersey crime, further tying him to the case. Following his capture, he was extradited to New Jersey, where he faced immediate charges for the murder of Michael Dabkowski. In court, Lannon pleaded guilty to Dabkowski's murder as part of a plea deal that resulted in a 35-year sentence. However, this was only the beginning of his legal battles. Back in New Mexico, prosecutors worked tirelessly to assemble a case against him for the murders of Jennifer Lannon, Matthew Miller, Justin Mata, and Randall Apostolin, an associate who had allegedly helped Lannon transport the plastic totes containing human remains before becoming a victim himself. While in custody, Lannon made a chilling claim. He confessed to killing up to 16 people. This statement sent shockwaves through law enforcement agencies, as it implied the existence of additional victims beyond the 5 confirmed murders already linked to him. However, authorities exercised caution in fully accepting this number. Many of Lannon's alleged killings had no corroborating evidence, and despite his confessions, no additional bodies had been discovered. Some believed he was exaggerating in an attempt to manipulate legal proceedings or build a certain image of himself. Regardless of whether Lannon had more victims, the confirmed murders painted a gruesome picture of a highly methodical killer with a disturbing ability to hide in plain sight. The Sean Lannon case left lasting scars on the communities affected by his crimes. Families of the victims were left grappling with unanswered questions and unimaginable grief, while local authorities were forced to confront the systemic failures that allowed his violent actions to go unchecked for so long. Moreover, this case raised critical legal and jurisdictional challenges, as investigators from multiple states had to coordinate efforts across state lines. The complexities of prosecuting crimes spanning different jurisdictions underscored the need for more efficient interagency collaboration in cases involving serial offenders. Ultimately, the Lannon case serves as a grim reminder of the hidden dangers lurking beneath troubled personal histories and unchecked criminal behavior. As the legal system continues to process his crimes, the haunting specter of possible additional victims ensures that the investigation into his past remains ongoing. With Lannon now behind bars, the pursuit of full justice continues, not only for those he has already been convicted of killing, but for any others who may have fallen victim to his brutal rampage. Sean Lannon's crimes have prompted intense discussions among criminologists and psychologists regarding what drives a person to commit such gruesome and calculated acts of violence. His history of substance abuse, claims of past victimization, and volatile personal relationships suggest a deeply troubled individual whose unchecked psychological struggles may have contributed to his eventual descent into murder. Some experts have pointed to antisocial personality disorder and psychopathy, conditions often characterized by a lack of empathy, manipulativeness, and a disregard for societal norms as potential factors in his behavior. Others have suggested that his traumatic childhood experiences, particularly his claims of sexual abuse at the hands of Michael Dabkowski, may have played a role in shaping his violent tendencies. Regardless of the underlying psychological motivations, Lannon's methodical approach to dismemberment, disposal, and deception demonstrates a high level of premeditation and emotional detachment, traits commonly observed in serial offenders. His ability to maintain relationships while hiding his crimes, as well as his capacity to move seamlessly between different states without raising immediate suspicion, further reinforces the idea that Lannon was highly manipulative and calculating. These insights into his psyche are not just relevant for understanding his actions, but also for improving law enforcement strategies in identifying and apprehending similar offenders in the future. As investigators piece together the events leading up to the discovery of Lannon's crimes, a troubling question emerged. Could these murders have been prevented? Looking back, multiple red flags were present in Lannon's past, including domestic disturbances, drug-related incidents, and psychological instability. His volatile behavior, particularly in his relationships, was well documented, and some of the victims had expressed concerns about him before their disappearances. This case has forced authorities to re-examine the gaps in the justice system that allow dangerous individuals to operate undetected. One major concern is the inconsistent communication between law enforcement agencies across state lines. If there had been more efficient sharing of information between New Mexico and New Jersey officials, it is possible that Lannon's movements and pattern of violence could have been recognized earlier. Additionally, Lannon's reported history of childhood abuse raises important questions about the long-term psychological impact of trauma and the lack of adequate mental health interventions. While personal responsibility remains a crucial factor, cases like this highlight the need for better mental health resources, particularly for individuals with violent tendencies and histories of abuse. A stronger early intervention system, one that prioritizes mental health evaluations, support programs, and closer monitoring of individuals with violent inclinations, could potentially reduce the likelihood of such tragic events occurring in the future. The Sean Lannon case will undoubtedly be remembered as a dark chapter in American criminal history, not only for the brutality of his actions, but also for the lessons it has forced society to confront. His ability to operate undetected across multiple states, his calculated disposal of bodies, and his twisted confessions have left law enforcement officials, legal experts, and the general public grappling with the unsettling reality of hidden dangers within communities. As Lannon serves his 35-year sentence for the New Jersey murder, the New Mexico investigations remain ongoing, with prosecutors working to ensure he faces full accountability for all of his crimes. Meanwhile, the possibility of additional undiscovered victims continues to haunt both investigators and the families of missing persons, leaving open the chilling question of whether his confessed body count of 16 may, in fact, be accurate. Beyond the legal repercussions, this case has ignited discussions about crime prevention, mental health intervention, and systemic reform. It serves as a stark warning of how unchecked criminal behavior, combined with personal trauma and substance abuse, can escalate into a full-blown killing spree. As law enforcement agencies adapt and refine their investigative methods, the lessons from the Lannon case will continue to shape future policies, ensuring that such horrors are prevented before they unfold. Even with Sean Lannon behind bars, law enforcement agencies continue to investigate the full scope of his crimes. His claim of up to 16 murders remains unverified, leaving authorities with a daunting challenge: determining whether additional victims exist, and if so, identifying them. Many of Lannon's alleged victims were reportedly involved in drug-related activities or transient lifestyles, making it harder to track disappearances and corroborate his statements. Police in New Mexico, New Jersey, and other states remain vigilant, reviewing cold cases, missing persons reports, and unsolved homicides that could fit Lannon's modus operandi. His ability to move freely between states, commit crimes without immediate detection, and evade authorities suggests the possibility that his killing spree may have begun much earlier than currently documented. Furthermore, forensic teams continue to analyze DNA evidence and physical remains linked to the case. Given Lannon's history of dismembering his victims, there is concern that some remains may never be recovered or were disposed of in ways that make identification nearly impossible. These unsettling realities leave an open-ended mystery that may never be fully resolved. For the families of Matthew Miller, Jennifer Lannon, Justin Mata, and Randall Apostolin, the pain of losing their loved ones has been compounded by the gruesome nature of their deaths and the lengthy legal proceedings. Many of them have expressed frustration over delays in prosecution, particularly in New Mexico, where Lannon has yet to stand trial for the 4 murders. These delays are due to interstate legal complexities, the necessity of gathering irrefutable evidence, and Lannon's already secured conviction in New Jersey. Despite these setbacks, families and community advocates continue to push for justice and legislative reforms. Some have called for stricter monitoring of individuals with violent pasts, while others have emphasized the need for improved resources for missing persons investigations. The case has also reignited discussions on the dangers of domestic violence, drug-related crime, and mental health neglect, with advocacy groups working to ensure that victims like Jennifer Lannon and others receive the attention and protection they deserve before tragedy struck. The Sean Lannon case is more than just a shocking true crime story. It is a disturbing lesson in the real-life consequences of systemic failures, personal trauma, and unchecked criminal behavior. His case will likely be studied by law enforcement, forensic psychologists, and legal scholars for years to come, offering insight into serial offenders who exploit both personal relationships and jurisdictional loopholes to commit horrific acts of violence. As he spends the remainder of his life behind bars, the legal system must ensure that justice is fully served for all of his victims. Additionally, communities must remain vigilant, recognizing the warning signs of escalating violence, manipulative behavior, and criminal deception before they spiral into the kind of horror that unfolded in 2021. For now, the case remains a haunting reminder that even the most routine discoveries, a strange odor in an airport parking garage, can unravel into something far more sinister. Whether or not all of Lannon's victims will ever be identified, the scars left by his crimes will endure, serving as a dark chapter in criminal history and a warning about the hidden dangers that sometimes lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives.
I'm going 911. I need an ambulance. What's the address? I need help, please. What's going on there? My husband just got shot.
To see an Evansville firefighter gunned down in front of his own home is something that we weren't really prepared for.
Now I hear a bunch of popping. I don't even know how many. I did not see.
Is this your husband?
Yes.
Yeah, his name is Robert Dorr. He's a firefighter.
For nearly 3 decades, Robbie Dorr dedicated his life to serving his community as a firefighter in Evansville, Indiana. Known for his unwavering commitment, he worked tirelessly, often taking on extra shifts and second jobs to provide for his family.
Robbie, call that 2 man. Robbie, you got anything?
Connect electrodes.
Just flush it. Robbie, he's done, dude. Damn it!
Oh, God, no.
Oh, damn it!
His colleagues described him as reliable, kind-hearted, and passionate about his work. Beyond his career, Robbie was a devoted husband, a loving father, and a proud grandfather.
Life sucks without him. Sorry, I'm trying not to cry. That was my best friend, and now he's never going to meet his grandson.
His daughter, Lindsay Griffin, recalled growing up with a father who always put others before himself. Whether he was rushing into burning buildings or lending a helping hand to neighbors, Robbie embodied the qualities of a true public servant. Despite his bravery in the face of danger, Robbie could never have imagined that his greatest threat would come from within his own home. On February 26, 2019, Robbie had taken a half shift at the fire department, covering for a colleague. His wife, Elizabeth Becky Dorr, was at home preparing pork chops for dinner, awaiting his return. The evening seemed entirely ordinary in their quiet Evansville neighborhood. At approximately 7 p.m., Robbie arrived home, driving his white truck into the driveway. As he gathered his belongings, his thermos, lunch pail, and work gear, he walked toward the house. Just as he neared the front door, multiple gunshots rang out. He was struck several times from behind in a cold and calculated attack. Inside the house, Becky frantically dialed 911, her voice filled with panic as she pleaded for an ambulance.
I need an ambulance. My husband just got shot. You said your husband just got shot? Yes. Stay on the line. I'll connect you to the ambulance service, okay? I got him on the phone. Rob. I don't know. I just heard a bunch of popping. Please get somebody here. Rob. Oh, my God.
It's been said, ma'am. I need you to listen to me, okay, ma'am? It's been said. Tell me what happened.
I don't know. I saw his truck pull in. I saw his headlights. Okay, what kind of vehicle was it? Ma'am, all I saw was my husband's headlights pull into the driveway, and then I heard a bunch of popping. My husband's 51 years old. His name is... Oh my God, please hurry.
Her statement immediately raised suspicions, as the kitchen window directly overlooked the driveway. It was difficult to believe that she could have heard the shots so clearly, but failed to see anything outside. When police arrived, they found Robbie lying in his driveway, struggling to breathe. Despite their efforts, he succumbed to his injuries before paramedics could transport him to the hospital. The attack shocked even the most seasoned officers. The crime scene itself raised immediate questions. No spent shell casings were found, which led investigators to believe that the shooter had used a revolver, a type of firearm that retains its ammunition instead of ejecting it.
We are at the 2700 block of Oakley Street. Here's what police tell us happened tonight. Police say that just after 7 o'clock tonight, they had several calls come in reporting shots fired. One of those callers said that they saw a man down on the ground. We're told the victim was shot and died here at the scene. Police say they do know who the victim is, but they are not releasing his name just yet. Right now, police are out talking to neighbors, trying to gather any information they can about a possible suspect. But right now they tell me they have no information about a suspect or any vehicle description.
Robbie had been shot multiple times from behind, suggesting that the killer had been lying in wait. This was not a random act of violence. It was a premeditated execution. Additionally, there were no signs of robbery or forced entry. Nothing had been stolen from Robbie's vehicle or his home, ruling out the possibility of a burglary gone wrong.
It's my dad to get down there.
I understand. You're not going through this crime scene.
Okay, well then get my mother down here. Her name is Elizabeth Dorr.
Still, everything's being investigated.
Is he alive?
No, he's not.
Oh my God.
Neighbors did not report seeing any unfamiliar vehicles or suspicious individuals in the area. The absence of physical evidence or witnesses indicated that the killer had planned the attack carefully and knew how to cover their tracks. But the most alarming detail came from Becky's own actions in the hours following the murder. Less than 12 hours after Robbie's death, Becky made a startling move. She visited the Evansville Fire Department to inquire about her husband's pension and death benefits. According to department records, as Robbie's widow, she was entitled to 75% of his pension for life and an additional $112,000 lump sum payout. Her eagerness to claim the money so soon after his death stunned Robbie's friends and colleagues. They were still in shock and mourning his loss, yet Becky was already asking about financial matters. This immediately raised suspicions, as her priorities seemed misplaced. Investigators took note of Becky's behavior and began looking into her personal life, searching for any possible motives that could connect her to the crime. That's when they made a shocking discovery: a deleted phone call made just minutes before Robbie was murdered. As part of the investigation, detectives obtained Becky's phone records from Sprint. They found that at 6:51 p.m., Becky had received a 4-minute call from a man named Larry Richmond Sr.
So what did you talk to him about? And do not lie, because we're telling you, answering your question, we already know the answer to. We know his history, we know everything about him.
I don't know.
So who was it?
My sister's fiance.
The one you don't know much about, correct?
And I don't know much about him.
Then what did you talk to him about?
Well, he wanted to know if what Rob and I were doing this coming this weekend. I don't know what, I mean, I know what happened to Rob in my driveway, but I don't know who did it. I don't know. I honestly don't know who did it.
Sorry, but you didn't even tell us about the conversation. We had to get to this point. Look how long we went through this.
I'm not telling you. I really don't know the killer.
Look at this paperwork. Look at all that. Nothing about him calling until we pull it out of you. The longer you keep it up, the worse it looks on you.
And I understand that, but
tell us the truth.
I didn't know anything about that.
Tell us the truth. I'm seeing you didn't say anything about a phone call. Do you not think that's perfect? I'm here talking to you. I rehash everything about what happened that night. You don't think I don't remember? I listened to the recording multiple times from our conversation that night, and you don't even mention it again. I go through that, you skip right over it. I don't know him that well.
I don't know him that well.
You're here for a reason. I didn't call him for here. He is here. He does an exceptional job. And guess what? Like you said, you can alter that. You can't alter that.
I'm telling
you had every opportunity.
I didn't tell anybody to hurt my husband.
Tell us what happened. Tell us what happened.
I did not know.
You tell us what happened.
I did not know any. I've only met him a few times.
But you had a 5-minute conversation with him.
He basically asked what we were up to. Does Rob work this weekend?
This call was missing from Becky's personal call log, meaning she had manually deleted it after it ended. When confronted about the call, Becky denied remembering it, despite the fact that it had taken place just moments before her husband was shot to death.
When you start writing that, and they're telling us the same thing too. And look at the difference in the writing. Nice and neat, nice and neat, nice and neat. Then we go over to sister's fiancé, and it looks like the third grade a little bit. Becky, this is where you need to think deep. You were very so specific about everything until we got down to this. And here's the thing, lady. What happens, happens. Neither you, I, or the other people that are in these rooms over here can change what happened. But you can, let me finish. Cannot change what happened. But you can change it from how it goes on here now by telling the truth. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. So take a deep breath and tell us who you talked to 5 minutes before your husband was killed in your driveway getting out of his truck in the back of the head. We're asking you questions we know the answers to, Becky. And I'm telling you that. So tell us who you were talking to 5 minutes before Rob got shot. Because I'm telling you, the federal investigation, the FBI, we are looking into this as a federal crime.
And I understand that.
So who did you talk to 5 minutes before your husband was gunned down in the driveway? Becky, we know the answer. So you can let us do the talking for you, or you can do the talking for yourself. And please tell the truth.
The timing was too coincidental to ignore. Larry Richmond Sr. was no ordinary acquaintance. He was a 46-year-old convicted murderer who had previously served a 45-year prison sentence for the 1996 killing of 70-year-old James Everett Montgomery. He had been released less than a year before the Robbie's murder. Even more disturbingly, Larry was engaged to Becky's sister, Amanda. Becky had not only been in regular contact with this violent ex-convict, but she had also deleted multiple calls between them. Over the previous 2 months, she had deleted at least 15 phone calls from Larry's number. The evidence suggested she was trying to hide something.
Well, Larry, while we've got everybody, it's not just you down here. Obviously, we're looking into the Robert Dorr situation. He was gunned down in his driveway.
What's that got to do with me?
Well, it has to do with everybody in the family. We're just trying to get everybody in here to see if there's just anything that can help us with this investigation. Do you wish to talk to me without a lawyer present?
I have no problem answering any of your questions. I will cooperate fully.
Okay.
Due to my past, I have been incarcerated.
Sure.
I'm on probation. I don't need any problems.
Sure. No, I understand.
So if I'm not under arrest, please get a hold of him. I will come back down here and fully cooperate. No problems at all.
All we're trying to do is find out if you guys know anything that could help us find his killer.
I don't know nothing. We go out with him. We go out, we drink. Outside of that there, I don't know nothing.
As investigators continued their search for answers, they discovered a major breakthrough. The murder weapon had been stolen 6 months earlier from a local pawn shop. The stolen firearm was a Taurus Judge revolver, a powerful gun capable of firing both .45 caliber bullets and shotgun shells. Detectives traced the stolen gun to Larry Richmond Jr., Larry Sr.'s son. At the time of the theft, Larry Jr. had been an employee at the River City pawn shop, where the gun was stolen. When questioned, he quickly confessed, admitting that he had stolen the revolver and given it to his father just 2 days before Robbie's murder. The revelation confirmed that Larry Sr. was in possession of the likely murder weapon at the time of the killing. Combined with the deleted phone call and Becky's questionable actions, police now had strong evidence pointing toward a conspiracy. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered even more damning evidence against Becky. A handwritten note was found at Robbie's funeral, signed Larry, with the words, "We need to talk." The note suggested that Becky and Larry were still communicating even after Robbie's death.
Can you read that out loud to the jury?
We need to talk. There's a phone number, and it says Larry.
Can you read the phone number?
812-589-5238. Larry.
This note is exactly how you remember it the night that you found it.
Correct.
Additionally, a letter written by Robbie before his death accused Becky of being unfaithful. Though there was no direct evidence proving she had a romantic relationship with Larry Sr., Becky's own son, Nathaniel, testified that she was obsessed with Robbie's pension and had talked about it daily.
It was a conversation several times. It was almost, we had a conversation about it daily, and I got frustrated several times, and I was like, Mom, there are procedures we have to go through to get to that point.
Surveillance data placed Larry Sr. near Robbie's house before and after the shooting. Cell phone location data showed that Larry Sr. had powered off his phone at 6:52 p.m., just after the call with Becky, and turned it back on at 7:14 p.m., after Robbie had been shot. The overwhelming evidence indicated that Becky and Larry Sr. had conspired to kill Robbie for financial gain. After years of painstaking investigation, the case against Elizabeth "Becky" Dorr finally went to trial in the spring of 2024. The courtroom was packed with Robbie Dorr's family, his fellow firefighters, and members of the Evansville community, all seeking justice for the man they had lost.
Robbie Dorr was gunned down in his own driveway by Larry Richmond Sr. I didn't intend for any of this to happen. This is what the defendant told detectives who were questioning her that night about the death of her husband. When Robbie Dorr arrived at his home after work, he was ambushed by Larry Richmond, who lied in wait just feet from where Robbie Dorr pulled into his driveway. This puts him close to a window the defendant says she was standing near making a pork chop dinner. Just 15 minutes before Robbie Dorr was ambushed and killed, the defendant spoke with Larry Richmond Sr. on the phone for 4 minutes and 18 seconds. As soon as the defendant was finished talking to Larry Richmond Sr., she deleted that phone call.
The prosecution argued that Becky had carefully orchestrated her husband's murder with Larry Richmond Sr., motivated by financial greed and a possible romantic relationship. They painted a picture of a woman who had grown tired of her husband, saw his pension and life insurance benefits as a way out, and conspired with a dangerous ex-convict to eliminate him. The state introduced damning evidence to support their case. Prosecutors revealed that Becky had deleted numerous phone calls with Larry Sr. in the months leading up to the murder, including the crucial 4-minute call made just 10 minutes before Robbie was shot. They also presented surveillance data and phone records that placed Larry Sr. near Robbie's house at the time of the murder. Furthermore, ballistics experts testified that the stolen Taurus Judge revolver, which had been taken from a local pawn shop by Larry Jr., was the likely murder weapon. Perhaps the most chilling piece of evidence was Becky's own words. Prosecutors played back the 911 call she made on the night of the murder, highlighting inconsistencies in her statements. They also pointed to her cold and calculated actions in the hours after Robbie's death, her immediate inquiry about his pension less than 12 hours after the killing. Testimony from Becky's own son, Nathaniel, was particularly damning. He told the jury that his mother was fixated on Robbie's pension, bringing it up daily, even on the night of the murder. His words painted a picture of a woman who was more concerned about financial gain than grieving her husband's death. The defense attempted to argue that there was no direct evidence linking Becky to the crime. They claimed that while Becky may have associated with Larry Richmond Sr., there was no proof she had ordered Robbie's murder.
There will be no evidence that Becky Dorr had any conversation with anyone about killing anyone. That doesn't exist. That is a speculative, suppositional, grandiose suggestion to support a charge that should have never been filed. You will hear no evidence of Becky Dorr talking about getting a gun. You'll hear no evidence about a conversation with anyone that's plotting her husband's death. That evidence does not exist.
Her lawyers pointed out that there were no recorded conversations discussing a murder plot, no texts, no written orders, just circumstantial evidence.
Strong about the case, but I have doubts. I mean, I can't be on the phone conversation with him that night. The deleted phone.
You have. Let's sort of get this out in the open.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a phone conversation that you asked Becky about at some point, correct?
Correct.
And you allege it's with Larry Richmond Sr., right?
It is, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You have no idea what they talk about, do you?
No.
And you know who initiated that call, don't you?
He did.
Who?
Larry Richmond Sr.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in your investigation, you don't have any evidence that Becky Durr ever initiated a phone conversation of any kind with Larry Richmond Sr., correct?
Correct.
In fact, this idea that is floated that these two were lovers, you don't have any communication between the two of them that would suggest that, do you?
Correct.
So if there's been a representation that there's going to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Becky Durr and Larry Richmond Sr. were lovers, that evidence doesn't exist, does it?
Correct. But that's where, may I speak? Yes. May I speak, sir? Okay, thank you. When we talked about doubt, that's what, because we can't get content from a phone conversation. Right. So I have to take her. Now, looking at everything that has come in, I don't believe her answer. That's where I felt strong. I feel strong about the case, but my doubt is I can't listen to their phone conversation. People can delete text messages between the two.
Right.
And we can't prove but they can discard them before we collect the phone. That happens all the time.
They suggested that Larry Sr. may have acted alone, possibly out of an obsession with Becky, and that her only crime was being unlucky enough to have interacted with the wrong person. However, the prosecution countered this argument powerfully. They pointed out that Becky had not only deleted her phone call with Larry Sr. before the murder, but had been in regular communication with him for months. They emphasized that a random act of violence by Larry made no sense. He had nothing to gain from Robbie's death, while Becky stood to inherit a lifetime of pension payments and a six-figure payout. The idea that Larry Sr. had killed Robbie without Becky's involvement or knowledge was implausible. After 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Becky Durr was found guilty on all charges, murder and conspiracy to commit murder. A gasp rippled through the courtroom as the verdict was read aloud. Some of Robbie's fellow firefighters wept openly, while others embraced one another in relief and grief. Robbie's daughter, Lindsay Griffin, sat in silent anguish, tears streaming down her face as she finally saw justice delivered for her father. Following her conviction, Becky Durr faced sentencing in June 2024. The prosecution pushed for the maximum penalty, arguing that her crime was particularly heinous because it involved deception, betrayal, and premeditation. They urged the court to consider the pain and suffering Robbie endured, the impact on his family, and the loss to the Evansville community, where Robbie had selflessly served for nearly 3 decades. In a final attempt to save herself, Becky took the opportunity to address the court, but instead of expressing remorse, she proclaimed her innocence once more.
Regardless what the verdict says, I am innocent of these crimes. I never asked anyone to harm or murder my husband. My world came crashing down on the night of February 26, 2019. I was in shock, devastated, lost, and I've never really been the same since.
She spoke at length about how she had never asked anyone to harm her husband and claimed she was being falsely accused. Her words fell on unsympathetic ears. The prosecution, the jury, and even her own family members had heard enough. When it was his turn to speak, Nathaniel, Becky's son, did not offer support to his mother. Instead, he condemned her actions, stating that she had brought shame and pain to their family and that she had betrayed the very man who had given her everything.
Comes together when you need them. Finally, justice has been served. Dad can finally rest. I'm sorry, but he can finally sleep and finally be put to rest.
His words left an emotional impact on the courtroom. reinforcing the depth of Becky's deception and selfishness. The judge, after reviewing all the evidence and listening to the statements, delivered a severe sentence. Becky Dorr was sentenced to 90 years in prison, 60 years for murder and 30 years for conspiracy to commit murder, to be served consecutively. The severity of the sentence ensured that Becky, now 52 years old, would likely spend the rest of her life behind bars.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of count 1 as charged in the information signed and dated this date. Verdict, count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of count 2 as charged in the information signed and dated this date. Does either side wish to have the verdict or the jury polled? State? No. Defense?
I do not.
Becky showed no visible reaction, though her lawyers vowed to appeal the conviction. Meanwhile, the family of Robbie Dorr embraced one another, feeling a bittersweet sense of closure. While nothing could bring Robbie back, the fact that justice had been served offered some measure of peace. Robbie Dorr spent his entire life dedicated to protecting and serving others, only to be betrayed by the person he trusted most, his wife. The thought of him working long shifts to provide for Becky, only for her to plot his murder, was heartbreaking for those who knew him. His fellow firefighters, who considered him a brother, were devastated by the horrific way his life was taken. The betrayal reached beyond Robbie's family and workplace. It shocked the entire Evansville community. A man who had spent decades running into burning buildings, saving lives, and working tirelessly to help others, had been gunned down in cold blood at the hands of someone who should have loved him most. His murder was not a crime of passion, nor a random act of violence. It was a cold, calculated, and premeditated execution, carried out for money. In the aftermath of Becky's conviction, Robbie's daughter, Lindsay, spoke publicly. She shared how her father had been her role model, her hero, and how the pain of his loss could never fully heal. However, she also acknowledged that, at last, her father could rest in peace, knowing that justice had been served. While Becky sat in a prison cell, and Larry Richmond Sr. awaited his own trial in August 2024, Robbie's family tried to rebuild their lives without him. His legacy, however, lives on in the memories of those he touched. His fellow firefighters continue to honor him. His family remembers his warmth and love, and his community mourns the loss of a true hero. In the end, the murder of Robbie Dorr was not just a crime, it was a devastating betrayal that shattered lives and left an entire community reeling. Though justice has been served, those who loved Robbie know that no prison sentence can ever replace the man they lost. As his daughter put it so simply, Dad can finally rest.
His death rocked this community as he had just finished his shift serving the citizens of Evansville as a firefighter, truly one of Evansville's bravest. Today is the first step in seeing some type of justice for Robbie. A short while ago, Larry Richmond Sr. and Elizabeth Fox Dorr were charged with the murder of Robbie. For over 3 years, EPD investigators, along with the FBI, the Vanderburgh County Prosecutor's Office, and the Vanderburgh County Cyber Crimes Task Force, have been working tirelessly to get to where we are today.
We are relieved that the long wait is over and the individuals involved in this murder are being brought to justice for not only Robbie's murder, but the pain they have caused his family, his friends, and our department.
What's the address of your emergency? Your guy thinks somebody else is on the line. Okay. I don't know what just happened. Okay. Were you injured? Were you injured? Okay, where are you?
It was a quiet May 2014 evening in the lively college town of Isla Vista, California. The usual Friday night of laughter and activity metamorphosed into chaos as sirens cut through the air and scenes of terror unfolded across the community. By the end of the night, 6 were dead, 14 injured, and the quiet town was in shatters. The motives that became apparent in the days that followed painted a decidedly disturbing picture, one that, in many ways, challenged this nation to confront its darkness as well as where it had failed mass murderer. Let me take you through the video, revealing every shocking, astonishing detail of this case.
Hey, Elliot Roger here. Just took a nice walk in the park.
Elliot Oliver Robertson Roger was born to Peter Roger, the filmmaker who worked on some sections of The Hunger Games, and Lee Chin Roger, a research assistant.
I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. I've never even kissed a girl.
Elliot was born into a quite privileged environment in London, England, on July 24, 1991. His family later settled in California after moving to the United States while he was still growing up. Despite the affluence in his upbringing, there was much emotional turmoil arising throughout Roger's life. Elliot was socially awkward and struggled to make friends from an early age. Parents, though divorced at the age of 7, were involved in his life. As Roger reached his adolescent years, he continuously spoke about his feelings of loneliness and low self-esteem. As a teenager, Roger went to several schools without ever finding his place among his peers. He soon became obsessed with the pecking order, felt at the bottom of the pile, and blamed others for his miserable life. Entries in his diary and later in his manifesto make clear a growing resentment against peers who seemed more successful socially, particularly men he envied and women he thought had rejected him.
I've waited a long time for this. I'll give you exactly what you deserve, all of you. All you girls who rejected me and looked down upon me, and all of you men for living a better life than me. All of you sexually active men, I hate you. I hate all of you.
In the following years, Roger's mental health problems started to surface. He had received therapists, was diagnosed with Asperger's, and was experiencing bouts of depression. Yet all these interventions appeared to have little impact as deeper feelings of anger and frustration started to surface. As Elliot Rodger approached his late teens and early 20s, the feelings of isolation and resentment that had plagued him for years became increasingly pronounced. Living in Isla Vista, a community known for its vibrant student life due to its proximity to the University of California, Santa Barbara, Roger found himself surrounded by the social interactions, relationships, and carefree fun he desperately desired but felt incapable of achieving. This environment only deepened his sense of alienation, as he felt perpetually on the outside looking in. In 2014, Roger began compiling his infamous 141-page manifesto titled My Twisted World. This document provides a detailed and chilling account of his life, from his childhood through his meticulously planned day of retribution. The manifesto offers unsettling insight into his thought process, revealing a young man consumed by entitlement, anger, and despair.
I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve.
Key themes include his belief that women owed him their attention and affection, his envy and resentment toward men he perceived as more socially successful, his obsession with social status, and his grandiose fantasies of revenge. Roger repeatedly expressed outrage at women for rejecting him, believing romantic and sexual relationships to be his right. He blamed women collectively for his unhappiness and viewed men who attracted women with envy, expressing a desire to punish them for their perceived success. His manifesto also highlighted his fixation on achieving a lifestyle he believed he deserved, fueled by constant comparisons to peers, as well as his delusional vision of himself as a savior, punishing society for perceived injustices. Roger's frustrations found a toxic outlet online, where he became active in forums such as PU I Hate, a community focused on criticizing pickup artists while harboring deeply misogynistic views. These forums amplified Roger's grievances and validated his belief that women in society at large were to blame for his misery. His radicalization is further documented in the videos he uploaded to YouTube in the months leading up to the attack. In these clips, he lamented his virginity, berated women, and announced his plans for retribution. Despite their disturbing content, the videos went largely unnoticed outside his small audience until after the attack. In the months leading up to the killings, there were several missed opportunities for intervention. Roger's parents were aware of his struggles and had tried to intervene. His mother, alarmed by his disturbing YouTube videos, contacted authorities, but when law enforcement conducted a wellness check, they found Roger polite and composed, ultimately taking no action. Roger had been in therapy from a young age, but these efforts failed to address his escalating issues, partly due to his refusal to take prescribed medication. Despite living in a shared apartment, he had few meaningful connections, and his roommates ultimately became his first victims. By the time May 2014 arrived, Roger had meticulously planned his day of retribution, purchasing firearms and mapping out his attack. His manifesto and online activity made it clear that he saw this act as both revenge and a way to achieve notoriety. The tragic events of May 23, 2014, in Isla Vista, California, unfolded in 3 distinct phases, leaving 6 victims dead, 14 others injured, and an entire community devastated. Elliot Rodger meticulously planned his attack as described in his 141-page manifesto, intending to carry out a series of violent acts involving stabbing, shooting, and vehicular assault. His targets included his roommates, women he perceived as rejecting him, and random bystanders, underscoring the calculated and deeply personal nature of his grievances.
Elliot Rodger here. And here I am at Serrania Park, the most significant place of my childhood. I wish I could be a kid again. Those were the happy years, and I could just live my life without realizing how cruel the world really is.
The violence began in Rodger's apartment with the brutal stabbings of his 2 roommates, George Chen and Chung Yuan Hong, along with their friend Wei Han Wang. These young men, aged 19 and 20, were completely unprepared for the ferocity of the attack, unable to defend themselves as Rodger carried out his plan. In his manifesto, Rodger expressed a deep resentment toward his roommates, whom he viewed as emblematic of his perceived social rejection and isolation. The act of stabbing these men in the very space they shared with him reflected a profoundly personal and disturbing aspect of Rodger's anger, as he targeted those closest to him in the first phase of his assault. Following the murders in his apartment, Rodger transitioned to the second phase of his attack. He uploaded a chilling final video to YouTube, titled Elliot Rodger's Retribution, in which he outlined his plans and articulated his hatred toward women and society at large. In the video, Rodger spoke of exacting revenge for what he perceived as years of rejection and injustice, blaming women for not giving him the romantic and sexual relationships he felt entitled to, and society for allowing him to feel marginalized. With his manifesto and video acting as his final declarations, Rodger set his deadly plans into motion. He drove to the Alpha Phi sorority house at the University of California, Santa Barbara, a location he had described in his manifesto as the hotspot of female perfection. According to his writings, this sorority house represented everything Rodger despised about women, an idealized version of beauty and popularity that he believed had spurned him throughout his life. When Rodger was unable to gain entry to the house, he turned his fury on bystanders outside, firing indiscriminately and killing 2 women, Catherine Cooper and Veronica Weiss. Cooper, 22, and Weiss, 19, were young UCSB students with bright futures ahead of them. Their lives senselessly cut short in the chaos of Rodger's rampage. Rodger's violence did not stop at the sorority house. He began driving through the streets of Isla Vista, targeting pedestrians and cyclists at random. His car became a mobile weapon, allowing him to move quickly between locations as he continued his shooting spree. During this phase, Rodger stopped briefly at a deli, where he shot and killed Christopher Michaels Martinez, a 20-year-old UCSB student who had simply been inside the establishment. Michaels Martinez, like the other victims, was a vibrant young person with dreams and aspirations that would never be realized, a life stolen in the midst of Rodger's escalating violence. The final phase of Rodger's attack involved the use of his car as a weapon of destruction. As law enforcement began pursuing him, he drove recklessly through the streets of Isla Vista, running over pedestrians in his path. Witnesses described the chaos as Rodger swerved erratically, intent on causing as much harm as possible before his plan reached its conclusion. The chase ended when Rodger crashed into a parked car, bringing his rampage to an abrupt halt. When police approached his vehicle, they discovered that Rodger had fatally shot himself in the head. Inside the car, authorities found 3 semi-automatic handguns and over 400 rounds of ammunition, evidence of the extensive planning and preparation Rodger had undertaken in the lead-up to the attack. The victims of the Isla Vista killings were young individuals with promising futures, their lives and stories tragically cut short by Rodger's actions. George Chen, 19, was described by friends and family as kind and academically driven, with a bright future ahead of him. Chung Yuan Hong, 20, shared similar qualities, remembered for his gentle nature and close ties to his family. Weihan Wang, 20, was a recent addition to the household and had dreams of academic and professional success. Catherine Cooper, 22, was a beloved UCSB student with a vibrant personality, while Veronica Weiss, 19, was remembered as a dedicated student and athlete who touched the lives of those around her. Christopher Michaels Martinez, 20, was a UCSB student with aspirations of becoming a lawyer, a young man known for his compassion and sense of justice. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the grief of the victims' families and the broader community became central to the public response. Parents and loved ones shared memories of those lost, turning their pain into advocacy for change. Richard Martinez, the father of Christopher Michaels Martinez, became a prominent voice in the push for gun control, channeling his grief into a call for action to prevent future tragedies. The senseless loss of these young lives highlighted not only the devastating consequences of Rogers' actions, but also the systemic issues that allowed his violence to escalate unchecked.
Parents used to always take me here when I was a kid, back when my life was happy and fair, back when I thought the world was fair. How naive I was. I was only an innocent child.
The Isla Vista killings underscored significant failings in recognizing and addressing warning signs. In the months leading up to the attack, there were numerous opportunities for intervention that went unheeded. Rogers' parents had expressed concerns about his mental health, and his mother had alerted authorities after viewing his disturbing YouTube videos. However, when law enforcement conducted a wellness check at Rogers' apartment, they found him polite and composed, ultimately taking no action. This failure to recognize the severity of the threat Roger posed reflected broader challenges in addressing mental health crises and the limitations of current systems in preventing violence. Rogers' extensive history of therapy and mental health struggles also came into sharp focus. Diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and experiencing bouts of depression, Roger had been in therapy for much of his life. Despite these efforts, his refusal to take prescribed medication and his increasing isolation rendered these interventions insufficient.
This is my usual sunset spot, mainly because there's rarely any young couples here that I would get jealous of.
His online activity, particularly his participation in misogynistic forums like PUA hate, further exacerbated his grievances and radicalized his worldview. These platforms provided a toxic echo chamber that validated Rogers' anger and entitlement, reinforcing his belief that women in society were to blame for his misery. The events of May 23, 2014, revealed the devastating consequences of unchecked anger, entitlement, and alienation. They also highlighted systemic issues in identifying and addressing warning signs, as well as the role of online communities in fostering radicalization. The victims' stories and the pain of their families remain a stark reminder of the human cost of such tragedies, emphasizing the need for a multifaceted approach to prevention, including mental health support, gun control, and addressing toxic cultural narratives. As Isla Vista continues to heal, the memory of those lost serves as a call to action to build a safer, more compassionate society. The Isla Vista killings remain a chilling reminder of how personal grievances, untreated mental health challenges, and online radicalization can intertwine to produce devastating violence. Elliot Rogers' actions, as chronicled in his manifesto and video statements, were the product of a complex interplay of factors, each demanding careful analysis to prevent similar tragedies in the future. At the core of Rogers' motives was a deeply entrenched misogyny. He believed that women owed him affection and sexual attention, framing his violent actions as retribution against a society he saw as unfairly denying him what he felt entitled to. His manifesto and videos reveal an obsessive fixation on his virginity and a simmering resentment toward women whom he blamed for his unhappiness. This entitlement fueled his hatred, positioning women as the primary targets of his grievances. Rogers' ideology was emblematic of the growing incel, involuntary celibate movement, a term that gained notoriety after his attacks but had already begun to coalesce in online communities at the time. Rogers' engagement with online forums such as PUA Hate, an anti-pickup artist community, provided fertile ground for his toxic beliefs to deepen. These platforms served as echo chambers, validating his anger and amplifying his misogynistic views. While the incel movement encompasses a range of ideologies, its core often perpetuates harmful narratives that dehumanize women and encourage hostility. Within these communities, Roger became a symbol of violent resistance, with some participants lionizing him as a figure of revenge against perceived societal injustices. This dangerous glorification underscores the unchecked radicalization that can occur in such online spaces, where vulnerable individuals find validation for destructive thoughts. Roger's mental health struggles were another significant factor in the tragedy. Diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and experiencing depression, he exhibited clear signs of social isolation and distress from an early age. Despite years of therapy and his family's attempts to support him, his condition deteriorated as he aged.
I've been cast out. No one likes me. No one accepts me. All my life I've been struggling to fit in with the popular kids. I've been struggling to get a girlfriend. No one has ever accepted me.
Roger's refusal to fully engage with treatment or take prescribed medication limited the effectiveness of these interventions, leaving him to spiral further into anger and resentment.
Hey, Elliot Roger here. I'm sitting in my car, making another entry in my collection of vlogs. Ever since I hit puberty, I've wanted girls. I've desired girls. I've been sexually attracted to girls. But they've never shown any attraction back to me.
His manifesto details his long-standing feelings of inadequacy and rejection, offering a window into the mind of someone unable to reconcile his expectations with reality. The system failed to address Roger's escalating behavior adequately, despite clear warning signs. In the weeks leading up to the attack, his mother alerted authorities to his disturbing online activity, prompting a wellness check by law enforcement. However, when deputies visited him, Roger presented himself as calm and polite, leading them to dismiss the concerns. This interaction highlighted a critical gap in assessing and managing mental health crises, as well as the challenges of identifying underlying threats when an individual does not outwardly display alarming behavior. A more thorough investigation could have uncovered his growing arsenal of firearms, the manifesto outlining his plans, or other red flags, potentially averting the tragedy. Roger's access to firearms was another enabling factor in the attack. Over the course of a year, he legally purchased 3 semi-automatic handguns, passing all required background checks despite his documented mental health issues. This aspect of the case reignited national debates about gun control, particularly regarding access to firearms for individuals with known mental health challenges. In response, California enacted the Gun Violence Restraining Order law, allowing family members and law enforcement to petition for the temporary removal of firearms from individuals deemed a danger to themselves or others. While this legislation represents progress, it also highlights the gaps that allowed Roger to arm himself and carry out his plans despite clear signs of distress and danger. Beyond individual factors, Roger's story reflects broader cultural and social issues. Toxic masculinity, the societal expectation that men must achieve specific markers of success, such as romantic relationships, financial status, or social dominance, exacerbated Roger's feelings of inadequacy. His manifesto reveals the destructive impact of these pressures, particularly when coupled with an inability to cope with rejection or perceived failure. Roger's belief that his self-worth was tied to romantic and sexual success left him vulnerable to intense feelings of resentment and entitlement when reality fell short of his expectations. The internet played a critical role in fostering and amplifying Roger's grievances. Online spaces provided him with a platform to express his frustrations and connect with like-minded individuals who reinforced his toxic worldview. The anonymity and insularity of these forums created an environment where harmful ideologies could thrive unchecked, emboldening Roger's sense of victimhood and fueling his plans for revenge. This case highlights the dangers of online radicalization, where individuals can be drawn into echo chambers that validate and escalate their most destructive thoughts. The Isla Vista killings serve as a stark reminder of the multifaceted nature of mass violence and the systemic failures that can enable it. Addressing the underlying issues requires a comprehensive approach. Improved mental health resources and interventions are crucial, particularly for individuals who exhibit early signs of social isolation or distress. Law enforcement must receive better training in identifying and responding to mental health crises, with a focus on assessing potential threats beyond surface-level interactions. Stricter regulations on firearm access, particularly for individuals with known mental health challenges, are essential to prevent future tragedies. Equally important is the need to challenge harmful cultural narratives. Combating toxic masculinity and addressing the unrealistic pressures placed on men to achieve specific ideals can help reduce feelings of entitlement and inadequacy. Efforts to monitor and counteract radicalization in online spaces are also critical, ensuring that vulnerable individuals do not find validation for destructive ideologies. The victims of the Isla Vista killings, George Chen, Chung Yuan Hong, Weihan Wang, Catherine Cooper, Veronica Weiss, and Christopher Michaels Martinez, were young individuals with promising futures, tragically cut short by Roger's actions. Their stories and the grief of their families continue to resonate, serving as a call to action for meaningful change. By addressing the interconnected factors that contributed to this tragedy, society can work to prevent similar events and honor the memory of those lost. The aftermath of the Isla Vista killings was a period marked by profound grief, public outrage, and a collective determination to address the and systemic issues that contributed to the tragedy. Families of the victims, particularly Richard Martinez, father of Christopher Michaels Martinez, emerged as vocal advocates for change. Martinez's impassioned plea, "Not one more," became a rallying cry for those calling for stricter gun control and greater accountability. His voice galvanized a movement, uniting activists, lawmakers, and communities in a shared demand to prevent future tragedies. The Isla Vista killings prompted significant legislative action, particularly in California, where reforms were introduced to address some of the systemic failures highlighted by the case. Among the most notable was the introduction of the Gun Violence Restraining Order, GVRO, a law designed to empower courts to temporarily prohibit individuals deemed a threat to themselves or others from accessing firearms. The GVRO became a model for similar legislation in other states, offering families and law enforcement a critical tool for intervening when red flags emerge. This legislation reflected a growing recognition of the need to balance individual rights with public safety in cases involving mental health crises and potential violence. In addition to gun control reforms, the tragedy spurred efforts to enhance mental health interventions. The Isla Vista killings exposed significant gaps in how mental health issues were identified and addressed, particularly for individuals who resist treatment or display warning signs without overtly threatening behavior. California responded by implementing measures to improve collaboration between healthcare providers and law enforcement, aiming to create a more cohesive system for recognizing and responding to potential threats. While these changes represent important progress, the broader national debates surrounding gun control and mental health care remain deeply polarized and unresolved. Elliot Rodger's actions and the manifesto he left behind forced society to confront uncomfortable truths about misogyny, toxic masculinity, and the radicalizing influence of online communities. His deep-seated resentment toward women and belief in male entitlement highlighted the pervasive nature of harmful gender dynamics that often go unaddressed. The attack brought the term incel, short for involuntary celibate, into mainstream discourse, exposing a subculture that, while diverse in its expressions, often perpetuates hatred toward women and reinforces damaging stereotypes about relationships and societal expectations. The Isla Vista killings sparked widespread discussions about how societal norms and cultural narratives contribute to feelings of inadequacy and entitlement, particularly among young men. Toxic masculinity, the expectation that men must achieve dominance, success, and romantic relationships to validate their self-worth, emerged as a key issue in understanding Rodger's grievances. His manifesto and online activity revealed how these pressures, coupled with social isolation, can fester into dangerous resentment. The case also shone a light on the role of online communities in radicalizing vulnerable individuals. Platforms like PUA Hate, where Rodger found validation for his toxic beliefs, were identified as echo chambers that amplify anger and misogyny. These forums allowed Roger to connect with others who shared his frustrations, reinforcing and escalating his sense of victimhood and entitlement. The incident underscored the urgent need for greater scrutiny of harmful online spaces and more proactive measures to counteract the spread of radical ideologies. Roger's mental health struggles and resistance to treatment were central to the tragedy, highlighting the challenges of addressing mental health crises, particularly for young men. His refusal to fully engage with therapy and medication underscored the limitations of voluntary interventions in cases where individuals are unwilling or unable to acknowledge the severity of their issues. Advocates have since called for greater public awareness of mental health, early intervention programs, and efforts to destigmatize seeking help, especially among men who may feel societal pressure to suppress vulnerability. The case also illuminated systemic shortcomings in recognizing and responding to warning signs. Law enforcement's wellness check at Roger's apartment, conducted just weeks before the attack, was a missed opportunity for intervention. Despite his mother's concerns and the disturbing content of his online videos, deputies found Roger calm and polite, ultimately taking no further action. This failure underscored the need for better training for law enforcement in assessing mental health crises and understanding the nuanced behaviors of potentially dangerous individuals. The Isla Vista killings left an indelible mark on societal discourse, pushing issues such as gun control, mental health care, misogyny, and online radicalization to the forefront of public consciousness. While legislative changes like the GVRO represent meaningful progress, much work remains to address the root causes of such tragedies. This includes fostering a culture that promotes mental well-being, challenges harmful gender norms, and counters the spread of extremist ideologies online. As the community continues to heal, the stories of the victims and the advocacy of their families serve as a powerful reminder of the need for change. Their loss is a call to action, a demand for a society that prioritizes compassion, safety, and accountability. By addressing the interconnected factors that contributed to the Isla Vista killings, there is hope that similar tragedies can be prevented, honoring the memory of those whose lives were tragically cut short. The Isla Vista killings stand as a sobering reminder of the complex interplay between personal struggles, pressures, and systemic failures. Elliot Rodgers' descent into violence was not an inevitability, but rather the tragic outcome of missed warning signs, untreated mental health challenges, and toxic ideologies that thrived in isolation and online spaces. This case compels us to confront these issues with urgency and compassion. As we reflect on this tragedy, it becomes clear that early intervention, stronger systems of accountability, and proactive efforts to challenge the cultural and structural forces that perpetuate misogyny and violence are essential. The Isla Vista victims' legacy calls for continued advocacy and action to create a safer, more inclusive, and compassionate society. Legislative reforms like California's gun violence restraining order mark important progress, but they are just the beginning. To prevent future tragedies, we must tackle the deeper roots of alienation, entitlement, and radicalization that lead individuals down such destructive paths. This means fostering a culture that values mental health, promotes healthy social connections, and confronts harmful narratives head-on. By learning from the Isla Vista killings, we honor the memories of those whose lives were tragically cut short. Their loss serves as a powerful call to action, a reminder of our shared responsibility to build a world where such violence becomes unthinkable. Together, we can reaffirm our commitment to ensuring that no more lives are lost to preventable tragedies. Thank you for watching this video and for taking the time to engage with this important topic. If you found this content meaningful, please like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more discussions that matter. Thank you. This is a case where nothing is as it seems, where the truth hides behind a web of lies, love, and betrayal. Stephen Franklin, born on November 27, 1924, in the heart of Travis County, Austin, Texas, was an only child. His parents, Stephen and Mildred, showered him with love, and from a young age, he radiated that love right back. After high school, Stephen set off for college at the University of Georgia, diving into advertising and marketing. But in the early 1940s, his studies were interrupted. War had broken out, and as fate would have it, Stephen was drafted into the Navy. Trained as a pilot, he served until the war ended in 1945. Once back home, he resumed his studies and graduated. In 1947, Stephen met Elise Adams. Friends described them as twin flames, inseparable best friends who did everything together. On April 10, 1948, they tied the knot, and a year later, Stephen found work in sales at a radio station, pitching airwaves to potential advertisers. The couple welcomed their first child, Stephen III, in 1949, and soon after, a daughter, Becky, arrived in 1952. By then, Stephen's career ambitions were growing, and he left the radio gig for a better-paying role as an assistant to the president at an ad firm, where he thrived. Their family grew once more in 1953 with the arrival of their third child, Paul. With success fueling him, Stephen moved into a general manager position at a media station, earning enough to retire early. But Stephen was no armchair retiree. Soon he turned his attention to real estate and eventually launched his own media and broadcasting company, co-founding the Fox affiliate KBOV, which brought in more wealth than he had imagined. The Beards settled into a life of luxury. Elise embraced the role of a trophy wife, often throwing grand parties at their sprawling home, while Stephen played golf at the local country club. They were the picture-perfect couple, wealthy, in love, and living an enviable life. Elise was Stephen's rock through everything, his biggest supporter. Whether he was working odd jobs, starting his own business, or raising their kids, Elise was by his side, cheering him on. They even had 2 dogs together, Nikki and Megan. Megan was Elise's favorite, while Nikki was always around to lighten their days. Life was good, and Stephen enjoyed the luxuries his success brought, even riding around town in a limo, not because he didn't know how to drive, but simply because he could afford it. Then in 1993, tragedy struck. After 45 years of marriage, Elise was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. It was a crushing blow to Stephen and their entire family. For decades, they'd been best friends, practically inseparable, and Stephen couldn't imagine life without her. But in October of that year, Elise passed away at 67, leaving Stephen heartbroken and alone. By then, their 3 children were adults, each with their own lives, which meant Stephen was left alone in their big house, grappling with his grief. To cope, he took up drinking, trying to drown the emptiness in the silence of his once busy home. Just 2 weeks later, he went to the country club, which he used to enjoy with Elise. There he noticed Celeste Martinez, a 30-year-old waitress he'd seen many times, but had never really spoken to. This time, feeling lonely, he asked her to dinner, setting in motion a story no one could have predicted. Now, Celeste's past was far from easy. Born on February 13, 1963, in California, she was adopted as a baby by Nancy and Edwin. Her birth mother had harshly rejected her attempts to reconnect, dismissing her as just an incubator. Her adoptive father, Edwin, was abusive, and Celeste grew up feeling unwanted. By 17, she moved out with her boyfriend, Craig Batcher, who'd also had a difficult childhood. They married young, and she soon discovered she was pregnant, with twins. But Craig soon fell into drugs and became violent, eventually landing in jail after assaulting Celeste and the kids. Celeste left him, sparking a fierce custody battle for their daughters, Jennifer and Christina. During the trouble, she briefly married an Air Force mechanic named Harold Wolf in 1991, only for him to disappear from her life by the year's end. When Stephen reached out to her in his own moment of loneliness, Celeste seemed to see in him a way out of her troubled past. But as they grew closer, few could have guessed how much more tangled their lives would soon become. After Celeste's brief marriage to Harold ended, she married Jimmy Martinez in 1992. Seeking a fresh start, they left California for Texas, hoping to build a new life. It was in Texas that Celeste found work as a waitress at a country club. At the club, she had served Stephen and Elise several times, getting to know Stephen as a regular customer who had very specific requests, particularly when it came to his vodka. Elise was always by his side, but after her passing, Stephen began to visit the club more often. And that's when he finally approached Celeste. Celeste, also going through a difficult time, having just divorced Jimmy and dealing with a custody battle with her ex-husband Craig, was not looking for a relationship but found a connection with Stephen. They were both grieving and struggling with life changes, so they leaned on each other for support. They began dating, and as their bond grew stronger, Stephen offered Celeste a job as his full-time house assistant. Celeste left the country club and started managing Stephen's household, handling everything from cooking and cleaning to caring for the dogs. Stephen, eager to spoil her, treated Celeste to a lavish lifestyle. She got a whole new wardrobe, jewelry, and traveled with him everywhere, living a life of luxury she had never imagined before. On February 18, 1995, they got married. Stephen was 70 and Celeste was 32. Their significant age gap raised eyebrows, especially among their families. Stephen's children and Celeste's kids were skeptical about the relationship, suspecting Celeste might be using Stephen for his money. Yet despite their doubts, they kept quiet because they saw Stephen genuinely happy for the first time in years. He seemed in love with Celeste, and that brought him a sense of joy he hadn't felt since Elise's death. Soon after their marriage, Stephen built a mansion in Toro Canyon for himself, Celeste, and her twin daughters, Jennifer and Christina. Their lives completely changed. They moved from a modest lifestyle into a gated community, and the twins were given their own rooms, new clothes, and private schooling. Celeste also enjoyed the fruits of Stephen's wealth, more luxury, a new social circle, and a lifestyle that was the complete opposite of what she had known before. It was a complete turnaround for Celeste and her daughters, who had gone from struggling to thriving in an instant. Celeste had designer clothes with tags still on them, new shoes she hadn't even worn, and an ever-growing collection of jewelry. Celeste didn't hesitate to spend Stephen's money, using her weekly allowance to shop for whatever caught her eye. It was said that their relationship was more about material gain than emotional connection, as Celeste herself mentioned that she and Stephen rarely had sexual interactions, only once a week on Sundays. Despite her lavish lifestyle, Celeste was still battling for full custody of her twin daughters, Jennifer and Christina, from her ex-husband Craig. With Stephen by her side, she had access to top-tier lawyers, but the courts ruled in 1995 that Christina would live with Celeste while Jennifer would stay with Craig. However, in 1996, Craig tragically took his own life, which led to Jennifer moving in with Celeste and Stephen. The girls, still grieving the loss of their father, found it difficult to adjust to Stephen as their new father figure. But over time, they warmed up to him, realizing how much he genuinely cared for them. In 1999, when Jennifer and Christina were 17, Stephen legally adopted them, solidifying their bond as a family. However, behind closed doors, the household was far from perfect. There were frequent arguments between Celeste and Stephen, as well as tensions with the girls. Things reached a breaking point when Celeste, in a heated moment, threatened in front of Stephen and the girls. The family, horrified, managed to calm her down and decided that Celeste needed professional help. They admitted her to the St. David's Pavilion Mental Hospital, where she began treatment. While in the hospital, Celeste received support from her family, especially Christina, who visited her every day to ensure she was well cared for. During one of these visits, Christina encouraged Celeste to make friends. Now Celeste took this advice to heart, and that's when she met Tracy Tarleton. Tracy came from a wealthy background in Fort Worth, Texas, where her father was a well-known attorney. As a child, she was a tomboy, often spending time hunting and fishing with her two brothers. Though well-liked for her sociable personality, Tracy struggled with her sexuality, knowing from a young age that she was gay, but too afraid to tell anyone due to her strict family. She kept this to herself, finding peace in friendships at school and in her summer camp experiences. Tracy was known to be wild and mischievous, often getting into trouble by provoking strangers and starting fights, much to the surprise of her fellow counselors. But her behavior, though alarming, was something she found amusing, even if others didn't.
Tracy Tarleton is bipolar and has been in and out of psychiatric wards for years. Tracy was severely abused by her mother, grew up in basically sort of an alcoholic, dysfunctional, very successful society Texas family.
Tracy's life, filled with wild behavior and rowdiness, seemed to be a manifestation of deeper issues. Her anger problems, often directed at random people, were thought to stem from the emotional weight of suppressing her sexuality. As a child, she struggled with the fact that she was a lesbian in a family that held very strict expectations for her future, getting married and having children. But Tracy knew that this path wasn't one that would bring her happiness. Instead of confronting these feelings, she bottled them up, hoping they would go away. But it only made things worse. After high school, Tracy went to college for biology, hoping that joining a sorority might help her break out of her shell and relieve some of the pressure she felt from her family's expectations. However, the stress only mounted. Her family's constant reminders about having children weighed heavily on her, and Tracy found herself turning to alcohol to numb the pain. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to escape her inner turmoil, and she even attempted during her time in college. When that attempt failed, Tracy dropped out of school, feeling like it just wasn't the right place for her. As she struggled with substances, particularly heroin, Tracy eventually checked herself into rehab in 1989. She cleaned up and returned to school, earning her degree in biology. She landed a demanding job as a general manager at a bookstore called Book People, where she worked long hours managing a large staff. This job, though stressful, allowed Tracy to escape her internal struggles, but it was an unhealthy distraction. Eventually, the pressure became too much, and Tracy had a major meltdown at work, exploding in front of her boss, customers, and staff. Concerned for her well-being, Tracy was admitted to the same mental health facility where Celeste was being treated. When Celeste and Tracy met at the St. David's Pavilion, they instantly clicked. Their shared experiences of childhood bonded them deeply, and their common interests in movies and music made it easy for them to connect. After leaving the facility, their friendship blossomed. They were often together, with Celeste spoiling Tracy in the same way Stephen had once spoiled her. They went out to fancy restaurants, flew first class, and Celeste bought Tracy clothes and jewelry. While others saw their relationship as an unusually close friendship, it was clear that their bond was more intense than what most would consider typical.
Tracy has been desperately seeking love probably since she was about 10 years old. And she finally found someone she thought loved her.
One incident, however, raised some eyebrows. A nurse at the facility walked in on Tracy and Celeste getting a little too intimate in Tracy's room. This forced the staff to separate them, with each girl being placed on a different wing of the hospital. Despite the separation, their friendship continued to grow, with Celeste continuing to shower Tracy with gifts and attention. What appeared to others as an innocent friendship seemed to be something much deeper and more complicated. Celeste and Tracy's relationship raised more than a few eyebrows, as their behavior in public seemed more intimate than what would be expected of just close friends. Celeste would often sit on Tracy's lap, and Tracy frequently played with Celeste's hair or whispered in her ear. They were undeniably touchy-feely with each other, even in front of others, which made many people uncomfortable. Celeste's daughters were no exception, feeling uneasy about their close relationship, especially considering that Celeste was married to Stephen. When confronted, Celeste downplayed it, dismissing their bond as nothing more than a friendship, claiming, "Tracy is a lesbian, but I'm not. Just because we're close doesn't mean anything."
It was obvious when they were together by the way they would touch each other and smile that it wasn't purely platonic.
However, the situation took a darker turn when Celeste's daughters, Christina and Jennifer, discovered that Tracy and Celeste had been involved in a more intimate way. Christina confided in Jennifer, telling her that she had caught Tracy and Celeste kissing in one of the guest rooms. Alarmed, Jennifer and Christina decided to confront Stephen about what they had witnessed. Furious, Stephen demanded that Celeste end her relationship with Tracy, forbidding her from bringing Tracy into their home again. Although Celeste reluctantly agreed, it was clear that this promise was empty, as she continued to maintain contact with Tracy, often talking and spending time with her outside of the house. Then one fateful night in October 1999, around 3 a.m., Stephen woke up to an excruciating pain in his stomach. Bleeding, he was unable to understand what had happened and tried to call out for Celeste, but she wasn't in their room. Celeste had been sleeping in Jennifer's room that night as Jennifer was away. Stephen, in a panic, managed to grab a phone and call 911.
What's your emergency?
3900 Toro Canyon Road. Hurry. My captain just jumped out of my stomach.
Out of here.
They blew out. Yeah, they blew out of my stomach.
Despite his efforts to call for help, The large house and its layout made it difficult for anyone in the other wing to hear him.
I can remember Jen just immediately started crying. And there was lots of panic, lots of confusion, because we didn't have the whole story.
By the time the ambulance and police arrived, Celeste woke up and was startled to find a police officer standing outside Stephen's room. She demanded to see her husband but was prevented from entering. When the officer explained that Stephen had suffered a stomach injury, Celeste became hysterical and insisted on seeing him. The police then began questioning her, asking if Stephen had undergone any recent surgeries, to which she responded negatively. It was then that a detective noticed a shell casing on the floor of the bedroom, indicating that Stephen had been shot. As the investigation unfolded, the police found further clues that pointed toward foul play. The scene was far from a robbery. Valuable items in the room had been untouched, and the gate to the property was wide open. Moreover, Stephen's sliding glass door was unlocked, and the home's automatic security system had been deactivated. These strange findings raised more suspicion, and as Stephen was rushed to the hospital for surgery, the police continued to piece together the evidence. The detectives continued their questioning of Celeste while she anxiously waited for news on Stephen's surgery. According to Celeste, she and Stephen had gone to bed between 9:30 and 10 p.m. the previous night. Afterwards, she said she went to the lake house to check on Jennifer and her boyfriend, which was about a 40-minute drive away. She claimed to have returned home, stopped for gas, and checked on Stephen before going to sleep in Jennifer's room, as Stephen's sleep machine was too loud. When asked if she had any idea who might have been behind the shooting, Celeste insisted there were no issues in their marriage, and she couldn't think of any enemies Stephen might have had. They were even supposed to leave for Europe the following day. She was puzzled about who would want to harm her husband. Meanwhile, Jennifer, who had been at the lake house, received the alarming news from Celeste and rushed to the hospital. When the police questioned Jennifer, her boyfriend suggested that the shooter could be Crazy Tracy, which caught the detectives' attention. Jennifer shared details of the close, possibly romantic relationship between Celeste and Tracy. The police now had a lead and sought out Tracy. When the police arrived at Tracy's house, she was initially compliant, but shocked when informed she was a suspect in the attempted murder. She denied any involvement, questioning the police about the details of the crime. The detectives were particularly interested in Tracy's gun, knowing she enjoyed hunting. When they asked to see it, her hesitant response raised their suspicions. Tracy eventually agreed to hand over the gun, saying it had recently been fired, but not at the Beard household. As they examined Tracy's apartment, the detectives noticed numerous photos of her with Celeste, which seemed more personal than typical friendship pictures. Tracy provided a timeline of her evening, saying she had gone to a shooting range, had beers and pizza, and then went home to sleep. The police collected her gun for testing to see if it matched the shell casing found at the crime scene. By this point, Stephen had survived surgery and was recovering. The police planned to question him next to see if he could offer any clues about the identity of his attacker. As Stephen recovered in the hospital, the detectives faced a major roadblock: Celeste. Every time they tried to ask Stephen about the shooting, Celeste stood in their way, acting as a fierce protector. She argued that it was disrespectful to question him so soon after surgery, despite the police trying to explain that they were only trying to help. They even asked her, "Don't you want to know who shot your husband?" But Celeste remained firm, refusing to let them speak with Stephen. Her protective stance reached the point where she hired a defense attorney to shield her from the police's questioning, which raised even more suspicion. The police couldn't understand why she was so determined to prevent them from talking to Stephen, especially when it seemed like the natural thing for a wife to want to know who was responsible for hurting her husband. With no way of getting information from Stephen, the detectives turned their focus to Tracy. They uncovered a disturbing link between Tracy and the shooting of Zan's husband, a former best friend. It was speculated, though never proven, that Tracy had been involved in the death of Zan's husband, who allegedly shot himself. Just as unsettling, Zan and Tracy had moved in together after the husband's death, living as a couple and isolating themselves from their friends. The detectives couldn't help but notice the eerie similarities between the incidents. Tracy had been involved in the shooting of one husband, and now Stephen Beard, her best friend's husband, had been shot. It seemed like the same pattern was repeating itself. The investigation dug deeper, and they found more disturbing details. After Tracy and Zan parted ways, Tracy had a breakdown at work and ended up meeting Celeste. This pattern was raising red flags for the police, not just for Celeste, but for her children as well. The thought that Tracy might harm Celeste's kids was a chilling concern. It was around this time that the forensic evidence came in. Tracy's gun matched the shell casing found at the crime scene. On November 4th, 1999, Tracy was arrested and charged with the shooting of Stephen, though she was released after posting bail. Stephen's recovery continued at a slow pace, with multiple surgeries and months of physical therapy. Finally, on January 18, 2000, he was able to return home. He was happy to be back with his dogs, especially Megan, Elise's dog. But just one day after returning home, Stephen suffered cardiac arrest and was rushed back to the hospital. Doctors discovered a severe infection in his system, but they couldn't pinpoint where it had originated. Sadly, on January 22, 2000, at the age of 75, Stephen passed away in the hospital. But here's a twist. The night Stephen passed away, Tracy's world also started to unravel. Upon hearing the news of Stephen's death, she realized that her charges for attempted murder would likely escalate to murder. Desperate to avoid facing the consequences, Tracy attempted to end her life by mixing drugs and alcohol. Fortunately, she was unsuccessful and was rushed to the hospital, where she survived. Meanwhile, as February 16, 2001, rolled around, the police began questioning Tracy. However, she refused to speak about her relationship with Celeste, refused to discuss the incident, and remained silent throughout the entire questioning. Her silence only deepened the mystery. Now, Celeste did speak to the police, but her words and actions didn't align. She confessed that she felt deeply guilty and had fallen into a depression after Stephen's death, but her actions suggested otherwise. The very day after Stephen died, Celeste called the bank to inquire about how much money she would receive from Stephen's will. Stephen had set up an allowance for Celeste, ensuring that she wouldn't squander all his money at once. This act felt cold and calculated, especially considering the grief her daughters, Jennifer and Christina, were experiencing. Jennifer and Christina were devastated by Stephen's death. They had always seen him as a father figure, as he had adopted them, supported them, and treated them with love. But Celeste's behavior, especially her distant behavior, left them with a gut feeling that something was wrong. Their fears grew stronger when Celeste began spending money casually, hosting parties, hiring an assistant, and even starting a relationship with a bartender named Spencer Cole Johnson. To Jennifer and Christina, it seemed like their mother wasn't affected by Stephen's death at all, and they began to suspect she might have played a role in his shooting. Further investigation revealed troubling details about Celeste's past. Friends shared that she had had an affair with her previous husband, Jimmy Martinez, during her marriage to Stephen. Celeste even admitted this affair to the police, stating that Stephen had forgiven her and they had planned a European trip to renew their vows the following day. This revelation painted a picture of Celeste as someone who lacked empathy and seemed to view the people in her life as tools for her own benefit.
You better get your help tonight. You understand that? Because if you don't, you will be sorry.
Now Jennifer and Christina's suspicions grew, and they decided to take matters into their own hands. They went to the police and shared their concerns about Celeste's behavior. Jennifer told the police that on the night Stephen was shot, Celeste had visited the lake house where she and her boyfriend were staying. Celeste had brought along Megan, Stephen's dog, a strange move considering how close the dog was to Stephen. Megan was known to be so attached to Stephen that she would cry whenever he left. The fact that Celeste brought the dog to the lake house seemed odd, and the police began to wonder if Celeste knew more than she was letting on. They theorized that Celeste might have brought Megan to ensure the dog wouldn't bark when Tracy entered the house to carry out the shooting, preventing Stephen from waking up and stopping the plan. Celeste's involvement in the shocking events surrounding her husband Stephen's death seemed undeniable, but it was still unclear just how much she had known or how deep her role truly went. Jennifer, Stephen's daughter, couldn't shake off her growing suspicions about her mother. Celeste had told her a strange story about Stephen being drunk and abusive toward her and their dog, Megan, the night he died. But Jennifer found it hard to believe. Stephen had always been kind to Megan, and violence wasn't part of his character. This story, along with others that Jennifer and her sister Christina shared with the police, painted a troubling picture of Celeste's actions. Jennifer and Christina feared their mother might harm them next to claim their inheritance. Disturbing memories from the past surfaced, too. Jennifer and Christina had caught Celeste secretly tampering with Stephen's food, crushing sleeping pills into his meals, and replacing his vodka with Everclear to keep him subdued. Celeste had even made unsettling comments about planning for death, talking about buying caskets for herself and her family. All of this painted a terrifying picture of a woman who seemed to have no empathy for anyone, including her own children. Despite a restraining order against her, Celeste's behavior remained unchanged. She married Cole, sold Stephen's house for $2 million, and used the money for her own selfish desires. Meanwhile, Tracy, still in jail, had no idea about Celeste's new life. She believed Celeste was grieving deeply, but when Tracy discovered through the media that Celeste had moved on, she was shocked. It became clear to Tracy that she had been manipulated all along. Celeste had used her to kill Stephen and secure his money.
I asked someone, why did Tracy finally turn, thinking, oh, it's because she's about to go to prison and facing possibly the death penalty of life at best? And they said because she finally realized that Celeste didn't love her.
Now here's the twist. In a moment of realization, Tracy cooperated fully with the police, confessing to everything. She revealed the secret relationship between her and Celeste, and how Celeste had described her marriage as emotionally abusive, even attempting to poison Stephen on multiple occasions. The plan to kill Stephen was put into motion, and Tracy, feeling cornered, reluctantly followed through with it. But after Stephen survived, Celeste assured her he would die from a secondary infection. As Tracy shared more details, it became clear that Celeste's involvement was far more extensive than anyone had imagined.
What did she say about exactly how she wanted you to shoot him?
She wanted me to shoot him in the stomach.
Why did she want you to shoot him in the stomach?
Because she didn't want splatter. She didn't want blood splatter on the wall.
Is that the word she used, splatter?
She used splatter.
Okay. Did she say why she didn't want a blood splatter on the wall?
She, at the time, was not planning on redecorating.
So she wanted to continue to be in that room but not mess it up? Sustained us to that question.
Yes. She didn't want to redecorate it. She didn't want to live with anything on the wall that would remind her of what had happened, I guess.
So after you saw Steve Beard and you were in there in the bedroom, what, if anything, did you do?
I walked to the foot of the bed and I shot him in the stomach.
Tracy's confession was a turning point in the investigation. She was offered a reduced sentence of 20 years for her cooperation, and Celeste was eventually arrested and tried. In court, Celeste claimed she was innocent and tried to discredit Tracy, even accusing her of being mentally unstable. But phone records revealed that Celeste had been in constant contact with Tracy, contradicting her claims. The overwhelming evidence led to Celeste's conviction. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 2042. After serving her sentence, Tracy was released in 2011, still haunted by guilt but receiving support from the community. Celeste, however, continues to deny any wrongdoing, even accusing her own daughters of being responsible for Stephen's death. But Jennifer and Christina remain firm in their belief that their father was a loving man and that Celeste was the one who betrayed them all. Celeste remains in prison, isolated from the world she tried to control. Do you think Celeste deserves to be in prison for the rest of her life? Why or why not? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions on this shocking case.
Sorry. 213 flyer, we're going to attempt entry in a residence, check and wrap up.
10-4.
Ready. Show us your hands.
To me. Put your hands up.
Come out here. You want to go?
Forward, hands up in the air. Walk out to me.
Where you want to go?
Nice and slow. Walk out to me.
Go hands on. Come on, bring him
Walk
up.
out to me.
You hands off, transition to less lethal. Come on, bud. Come outside. Sit, Josh. Josh, come out to me, buddy.
Stop!
I can't do anything.
I can do everything. On the ground. I am not on the ground. I'm on the ground just now.
11, step it up. Hang on, deploy.
24, 25, 311.
Put your hands behind your back. Do it now. We're not playing with you.
Look, come on. Stop
Put your
fighting.
hands behind your back.
Stop fighting. We're all wrapped in the court system. Yeah, I'm
On November 9th, 2022, the peaceful community of Palm Coast, Florida, was rocked by an unthinkable act of violence. 19-year-old Luke Ingram, in a fit of madness, carried out one of the most shocking crimes the area had witnessed in years. That evening, Flagler County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to a chaotic scene at the home of Luke's father, Clint Ingram, following a desperate 911 call. Neighbors reported seeing Clint, bloodied and battered, staggering in his yard, frantically explaining that his son had attempted to kill him. Yet despite his own injuries, Clint's primary concern wasn't himself. It was his elderly father, Luke's grandfather, who was still inside the house.
Status check. Traffic clear, Valley 3.
Delta 213, fine. Can you give us the channel for now until we know we got it?
1033 for the so clear more. All of this wishes are. I'm back to 213. Do you have to 1012 thing?
1054.
Sheriff's office, coming in the door.
Motion lights just came on next door. Could be the wind.
Where's the grandfather? He's right there.
Down right inside the front door.
As long as we can get him and get him out, then we can go from there.
Right?
Yep.
Sorry. 213 flyer, we're gonna attempt entry in a residence, check on grandfather.
10-4.
Right.
Show us your hands.
Out to me.
Put your hands up. Come out here.
You want to go?
Small work. Hands up in the air. Walk out to me.
Where you want to go?
Nice and slow. Walk out to me.
Go hands on. Come on, bring him
Walk
up.
out to me.
You got hands off, transition to less lethal.
Come on, bud.
Come
on. Outside.
Sit, Josh. Josh, come out to me, buddy. Let's talk about what's going on.
Luke, come outside with us. Figure everything out.
Luke, come on out to me. Someone go with us. Can you come out to us, man? Come talk to us. What's going on today? Slow, hands up in the air. Come out nice and slow. Alright? Turn around for me. Turn around.
Who are you 1012?
Come on, work with us, man. You turn around for me. You turn around, face away from me. You turn around. Turn around and face away from us. Turn around and face away from us. What's going on today? You alright? You need medical?
We have an ambulance on standby to check you out, but you gotta come with us.
Go. Turn around and walk backwards towards us. Can you kneel down where you're at? Can you kneel down where you're at? Kneel down for me.
Look, we're only gonna ask nicely so many times.
Come on. Okay, get down on your knees. Let's talk about this and figure things out. You gotta work with us though, alright? And get you guys taken care of. Alright, just turn around and go down onto your knees. Okay, turn around and get down onto your knees. Is there a reason you're not doing that? Here to talk to you. What's going on?
There is a rifle in the master bedroom, but they don't believe so.
Turn around for me.
111.
You want to walk out here and talk some more? Okay, come on more.
111, back to 221. Can I have that male's first name again?
Turn around for me. Or go down onto your knees, one way or the other. Either works. Do you have any weapons on you or anything? Can you talk to me? Are you hurt at all? Do you need medical attention? Come, kneel down. Can you kneel down so we can talk? So we can help you and your grandfather out? Good, turn around.
Clear, Claremont.
Come on. We need to get to your grandfather and help you out. Can you kneel down for me? We're going to have to do that. Come on. Can you go down on your knees? Luke, kneel down. Don't get agitated, all right? We're here to help you. Keep your hands up and go down onto your knees. Get ready. Luke. Don't stress. Come on. You're ready.
Luke, last chance. Down on your knees, now.
Luke, go down onto your knees.
Down!
Holy shit! Okay.
I can't do anything.
I can do everything. On the ground. I am not on the ground. I'm on the ground just now.
24, 25, 11.
Put your hands behind your back. Do it now. We're not playing with you.
Luke, come on. Stop
Put your hands
fighting.
behind your back.
Stop fighting. We're all wrapped in the court system. I'm
221, I'm with the units at the house. 215 is back with the male plant.
Go ahead and check on Grandpa.
Copy 221 Bulletin Residence 250, staying at 34.
Just a second.
221 Flagler. The elderly male inside is heavily injured. Send med.
Mail secured here for med.
Copy, mail secured at the residence, clear for med.
Are you good?
He's heavily injured.
Check pulse, check vitals.
221, it appears he's going to be deadly.
Gonna be deadly.
.221, no pulse, pulse at the touch.
Copy, no pulse.
The residence.
Here, I got it.
Ready? Sheriff's office, anyone inside, make yourself known. Sheriff's office, is anyone inside, make yourself known. I got over, I'm going right.
Copy, clearing the residence.
Discovered at the scene was beyond comprehension, a horrifying testament to the depths of Luke Ingram's violence. The 85-year-old victim, Darwin Ingram, Luke's grandfather, had suffered unimaginable brutality. Luke had chewed off his grandfather's ears and lips, crushed his skull, and shattered his ribs. The elder man's body was covered in bruises from a savage beating, and the sheer extent of the violence was compounded by evidence of invasive injuries. A metal rod had been lodged so deeply inside Darwin's body that it was only discovered during the autopsy via X-ray. After securing the property, deputies documented Luke's appearance for evidence before placing him in the back of a patrol car. Meanwhile, his father, Clint, was interviewed separately. Although the footage of Clint's interview was not released by the Flagler County Sheriff's Department, the police report provided disturbing details. Clint revealed that Luke had recently been diagnosed with schizophrenia. The day prior, Luke had been in Georgia, where he attended college, but had exhibited concerning behavior, prompting Clint to ask him to come home. That evening, Luke joined Clint and Darwin for dinner, but his behavior raised alarms. Clint noted Luke's blank, unsettling stare throughout the meal, which left him feeling uneasy. Out of precaution, Clint locked his bedroom door before going to bed. Later that night, he was awakened by the sound of screams coming from downstairs. Rushing to investigate, he found Darwin in a horrific state. As Clint attempted to call 911, Luke turned on him, initiating a violent struggle. Clint described nearly losing consciousness twice as Luke choked him, but he managed to escape and call for help. While Luke sat in the back of the police cruiser, his demeanor gave officers a chilling glimpse into his disturbed state of mind, a stark contrast to the horrific violence he had unleashed just hours before.
What are you doing?
Looking around.
What?
Looking around.
Why don't you have a seat, man?
I'm fine. Thank you, though. Where's my dad? What's going on here? Don't do it. How in the did that happen? That.
Reports confirm that Luke Ingram was not on any medication to manage his schizophrenia at the time of the incident. Following his arrest, Luke was transported to the Flagler County Sheriff's Department for questioning, where investigators sought to unravel the motives behind his unthinkable actions.
Yeah, my name's Catherine. I'm gonna take you upstairs and we're gonna talk for a minute, okay? He's gonna walk us upstairs, okay?
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke.
I'm trying to keep my hand on your side, all right, bud? Alright, we're gonna follow her, okay? Alright, yeah.
No, I'm not doing alright. Thank you.
I had to keep you off the grass.
Can we loosen cuffs?
Well, yeah, once we get inside, yeah, we can definitely check them out.
It'll be warmer in here.
For all I know, they might even be able to get to, move them on front or something. We'll see. Orange.
I'm sorry, Summers.
Okay, we're gonna follow her, okay?
Follow me.
All right,
Oh, God. To a room where it's warm.
almost there. We're gonna keep going. We're just gonna keep following her, okay?
We're gonna go into the elevator really fast and go upstairs because we have a really warm room up there. It's not raining or anything, so.
Luke is still on edge, and by loosening Luke's cuffs, they have given Luke an opportunity to gain more control over his arms and hands. According to a Secret Service report that sheriffs are unaware of, Luke had a previous arrest in Washington, D.C., when he breached the security perimeter of the White House in another delusional episode. During these episodes, Luke can become dangerous fast.
Okay. Alright, that's fine. I'm John.
I don't know you.
Alright, and I get that. Okay. We just met you today, too.
Just met you today.
Just met. You remember that downstairs?
No, we met a year ago.
Did we?
Yeah.
Did you know?
No. Oh, God.
He was asking us to adjust his cuffs.
Let's sit down and we can try to adjust your cuffs a little bit, okay? I would love to adjust my cuffs.
We could put them in the front for you if you're okay with that.
Feel a little bit more comfortable, right?
No, never mind. Just leave them out back, just adjust them a little bit and...
Alright. This way they won't be so tight, Luke. I don't, I want you to be comfortable. I don't want you to be uncomfortable, that's for sure.
Yeah. Alright, sit tight. Don't move. Don't move that.
We're gonna make this a little bit more comfortable.
I gotta make this comfortable for you, bud. Okay?
That way we won't have to bend your arm like that next time to reach it.
Okay, hold on, bud. Hold on for me.
Got more space in the cuffs, got you out of the car. You're doing much better in here.
I can't see that. Give me a little bit of light on it.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
How's that?
A little bit better?
A little bit better?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All right.
just a little bit better.
All right. Would you mind just taking a seat and hanging out for a minute? That'd be all right?
During questioning, Luke remained largely unresponsive, offering little insight to his state of mind. However, his agitation grew rapidly, culminating in a violent outburst. Taking advantage of the loosened cuffs, he managed to maneuver his hands to the front of his body, turning his aggression toward the investigators. In a shocking escalation, Luke began biting the investigators and physically attacking the deputies, forcing them to intervene swiftly to regain control of the situation. The incident underscored the severity of Luke's mental state and the imminent danger he posed, even while in custody.
Pulse.
I was gonna say, I got
Can we double pulse on his feet? Pulse.
We get them on ankles and loop them to the front and tuck them in tight. Because I don't want the handcuffs coming undone and him having a weapon.
Stop.
You're gonna get shocked again. Luke, relax. You're gonna get busted. Want to get tased again?
And then we can hobble him to his
Deep breath.
belly so he doesn't get his
Relax, Luke. Yeah, we
You feel on his ankles or not?
You don't have leg shackles.
Who does?
Leg shackles.
Is he outside our 21 fighter? Does anybody get me
Yeah,
Deep
breath.
Take deep breaths. Calm down, all right?
Yeah, please.
Once you're calm, we'll put you back up, all right?
Everyone's safe. Here's how we're gonna do this. Is he chilling or hey, buddy? Hey. Yeah, the second. Let me see your eyes. It's okay. Yes. What's up? Yes. Key for sure. What? Key? Handcuff key? Alright, we are gonna get to this key. This pupil's like a fly. Once those are on, we'll take this one off. Hold on a second. Why are you taking any handcuffs off? No. We need to handcuff him behind his back so he can sit up and breathe better. So once those are done, I don't think it's a good idea.
Okay, he wouldn't have a weapon now potentially for if he pulled it away.
For which hand?
A tug of war on the handcuffs.
They've been up here with them. What do you want to do?
I'm thinking if we can
If we can get a hobble from here
like if they're in jail, like their hands are stuck in front of their waist, and they're hobbled at their feet, and that way his hands don't get free.
Do we have something to hobble them?
We're calling for him, but I don't know if anybody's got it.
One sec, buddy. Stay still for me for a second.
Securing him and giving him that weapon at this point is not
There should
working.
be a chair. I got a pair in my car.
No. I left it down there.
The car might be the quickest one.
It's in the passenger seat, in the caddy, in like the cubby, the hobble. It looks like a dog leash.
I can. Highly.
It's the only maneuver.
I'm gonna secure my zero.
Punch
Yeah. I was about to leave when this guy. Yeah, go. Ready?
No, they're going to try to hobble them to the front. Go secure your zero. Yeah, go ahead.
Guard it?
Yep. Got it? Get that arm good.
Got it.
All right.
Stop. Relax, buddy.
Stop.
Relax, buddy. Relax.
If you stay cool, we can stay cool, and we'll get this done with.
It takes multiple people to subdue Luke, and they decide to put more secure restraints on him until EMS arrives.
All right, relax. Relax. Take it easy. So I need this hand. Push hammer too much. I need this hand.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Okay, so hey, you're good. Relax, pal. So Cameron, go ahead and get this hand a little bit closer. There we go.
I'm dead.
No,
I'm dead. I want to kill myself. I want to kill myself.
Relax, pal. Relax. Relax, buddy. All right.
Just
so.
All right, so where's the hook going?
Okay. So this key.
You have to. Hold on. Go ahead. Who is going to have control of that
Hansky's
arm?
got that. I got this one.
But you got to realize he's going to have two cuffs from it. So make sure you both have control of that arm. All right. We will have control of this arm, but then we also need a pair of cuffs. I'm going to release here.
Take a deep breath, buddy.
Oh my god, this hurts.
Relax. If you relax, it'll stop hurting.
Okay. All right.
We're just waiting.
What's your name?
Luke. Luke. You okay? Huh? Are you okay? Okay. All right. Put your seat. No,
Yes.
Hobbles are double locked?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Cameron. Hold on. Hold on. 2, get up, 3. There you go. All right, so lift and go this way. Can we go up?
Yep. 1, 2, 3.
There you go.
Relax, Luke. Relax.
First, we're going to do these right here.
That comes up. Yep.
Much with these.
I
already gave them.
No, I know they're wrapped.
Oh, okay.
It took multiple officers to subdue Luke as his violent outburst escalated. Recognizing the immediate risk he posed, deputies decided to place him in more secure restraints to prevent further harm. The situation remained tense as they waited for EMS to arrive, highlighting the sheer intensity of Luke's agitation and the challenges in managing someone in such a volatile mental state.
Chill out, bro. All good. I'm listening to that match, dude. Come on. I'm trying to help you out, man. Yeah, man, I think so. Thank you. Alright? I'm trying to help you. You don't want it? Alright, huh? 1 second. Go out. Back up. Back. Another step.
Luke was transported by ambulance to a nearby hospital for a medical evaluation, where his wounds were treated under close supervision. Once cleared by doctors, the accompanying officer wheeled him out to the patrol car, ensuring every precaution was taken during the process. From there, Luke was transported to the county jail for booking, where arrangements were made for him to meet with a psychological professional to assess his mental state and provide further insight into his condition.
You just throw it on there.
That shit wants to go over the place. I'll go to the other side, pull on there.
Hey, look, you want to stand up for me?
That's what I told you.
stand up for me?
Come on, you gotta get up on us.
Stand on the floor.
Put your feet 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 on the floor, not on the wheelchair.
Sit back down. Sit back down.
No, trust me, I am.
Come on,
Feet
put
are
your
not on
feet
the floor.
Put this foot on the floor. You gotta put them on the ground, bud.
Let's take a step off.
Step off the
There you go. I got you. Go
off the
ahead.
wheelchair.
Step off.
I'm not doing anything.
Step on the ground.
All right.
Pull the wheelchair. Watch out.
There, Steve.
Luke underwent evaluations by multiple clinical professionals to determine whether he met the legal definition of insanity at the time of the murder. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, both the state and Luke's defense team reached a consensus. Judge Perkins accepted the findings, ruling that Luke was legally insane at the time of the crime and declaring him not guilty by reason of insanity. As a result, Luke was committed to a secure psychiatric facility for treatment and stabilization. The trial, lasting just 45 minutes, was described as more of a procedural formality, providing the family an opportunity to address Luke directly. During their statements, Darwin Ingram was remembered by his son as a kind and gentle man who had served the State Department honorably and deeply loved his grandchildren. The family's grief was palpable, with Luke's uncle emphasizing that, insane or not, Darwin did not deserve the death he endured. Adding to the tragedy, allegations surfaced that Luke's mother had refused to accept his schizophrenia diagnosis in 2020. Had Luke received treatment and been placed on medication at that time, some family members believe Darwin's death might have been prevented. The devastating loss left a lasting impact on the family, who continue to grapple with the senseless nature of the crime. If you found this case as shocking and tragic as we did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the most chilling true crime stories. On March 12, 2023, authorities in Vancouver, Washington, received a distress call from a concerned grandmother reporting the disappearance of her 27-year-old daughter, Michelle, and 6-year-old granddaughter, Layla. A devoted single mother, Michelle's life revolved around her daughter, who was the center of her world. There was no apparent reason for Michelle and Layla to leave without informing their family, raising suspicions that something far more sinister was unfolding. One of the last individuals to see Michelle Melendez alive was her ex-boyfriend, Kirkland Warren. Their relationship had been tumultuous, but Kirkland claimed they were reconciling. At least they had been until Michelle and her young daughter Layla vanished. The disappearance of a devoted mother and her vulnerable child prompted an urgent investigation. However, as police delved deeper, they uncovered a dark and twisted history, leading to a murder that would leave an indelible mark on Vancouver for generations to come. Vancouver, Washington, one of the state's most populous cities, lies on the border with Oregon near the West Coast. With a violent crime rate of 6.32 per 1,000 residents, significantly higher than the state average, the city's safety concerns came into sharp focus when Michelle Melendez and her daughter, Layla Stewart, disappeared in March 2023. On the morning of March 12, 2023, 27-year-old Michelle Melendez and her daughter Layla were last seen by a friend in a burgundy Dodge Charger. The driver of the vehicle was Kirkland Warren, Michelle's ex-boyfriend. This detail strongly suggested that he may have been the last person to see Michelle alive. March 22, 2023, began like any ordinary day at a prison in Vancouver. However, for a determined detective stationed at a chess table, preparing to conduct a crucial interview, it was anything but routine. Tasked with uncovering the fate of missing mother Michelle Melendez and her young daughter Layla, the stakes were monumental. He could only hope that the questions he was about to ask would lead to the answers desperately needed in this harrowing case. Kirkland claimed that he, Michelle, and Layla had spent the night together at a friend's apartment. Kirkland informed the investigator that Michelle had parked her car further down the street. He claimed that he drove her and Layla to the vehicle, dropped them off, and watched as they drove away. According to Kirkland, this was the last time he ever saw them alive. Michelle and Layla were reported missing on March 18th, 6 days after their last known sighting. Michelle was an independent and responsible woman who cherished her role as a mother. Disappearing without informing her family was entirely out of character. She took great care of her daughter, Layla, who was often featured in her TikTok videos, joyfully dancing alongside her mom. At just 6 years old, Layla was thriving in school and held the promise of a bright future. Michelle once shared, "I don't know how I got blessed with such an amazing daughter," reflecting the deep love and bond they shared. Layla was adored not only by her mother, but by their entire family, including Michelle's mother, Layla's devoted grandmother. When Michelle's mother hadn't heard from her all week, she grew increasingly worried and contacted the police. The Vancouver Police Department performed a welfare check at Michelle's apartment, but there was no trace of Michelle or Layla. Desperate for answers, Michelle's mother continued her search the following day and discovered Michelle's car abandoned in the Van Mall neighborhood. This was the same area where Michelle and Layla had reportedly stayed with Kirkland on the night of March 11th. Kirkland claimed that he had attempted to contact her that same day. Kirkland and Michelle had a tumultuous on-again, off-again relationship, so it didn't initially strike him as unusual that she hadn't reached out for a while. According to Kirkland, after dropping her and Layla off, he went to a bagel shop and then visited another friend's house. He claimed her absence didn't raise any concerns until nearly a week later, when she was officially reported missing. Kirkland Warren grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, as the son of a municipal judge who resigned in 2009 amidst allegations of misconduct, including second-degree forgery, abuse of office, and attempted theft of property. In recent years, Kirkland relocated to Vancouver, Washington, where he married Monet Tyler Warren. Together, they had 2 daughters, aged 2 and 6, in the spring of 2023. Monet worked at a bank in Portland, but she was under investigation for allegedly stealing nearly $25,000 from customer accounts and transferring the funds to others. This incident, though seemingly unrelated at first glance, would later prove to be part of a larger, troubling picture. On November 21, 2022, Monet's credentials were used to alter account information at a credit union, enabling the transfer of $220,000 into an account under Michelle Melendez's name. Surveillance footage from that same month captured Michelle opening an account at the credit union and later leaving the scene in Monet's car. This evidence confirmed that the 2 women knew each other and suggested they might have been involved in a criminal scheme together. The connection seemed plausible when examining Michelle's social media activity. An active TikTok user, she abruptly went quiet after her last post on December 20th, 2022, just as the thefts from the credit union came to light. This sudden disappearance from social media hinted at an attempt to avoid exposure amid a potential investigation. Notably, her last 2 posts featured Kirkland Warren, raising further questions about his role in their connection. What was the true relationship between Michelle and Monet? How had this scheme developed if they were both involved? The only apparent link between the 2 women was one man, Kirkland Warren. When questioned by police, Monet placed the blame squarely on Kirkland, adding another layer of complexity to an already tangled narrative. Monet claimed that she had been altering account information at her husband Kirkland's request, helping him steal money as he had instructed. She stated that Kirkland had told her he was planning to divorce her, but their relationship was far from just rocky. It was deeply entangled with criminal activity. Kirkland's turbulent relationships extended beyond Monet to Michelle as well. Kirkland and Michelle had been staying at a friend's apartment rather than their own, and the reason for this was chilling, a restraining order. Both women appeared to be caught in a web of manipulation and control, with Kirkland at the center of their troubled and increasingly criminal lives. In December, Michelle called 911 to report a terrifying incident. Kirkland had assaulted her and fired shots at her balcony window as she stood looking outside. By February, investigators had corroborated her account with a friend who was present during the altercation. However, just 2 weeks later, on February 17th, Michelle unexpectedly recanted her accusation. She claimed she had lied about the shooting and stated that both she and her friend struggled with mental health and substance abuse issues, casting doubt on her initial report. Michelle even requested assurances from the police that Kirkland wouldn't face arrest. Her sudden reversal and attempt to discredit herself raised immediate suspicion among investigators, who couldn't ignore the unsettling inconsistencies in her story. On March 2nd, Kirkland was arrested on multiple charges, including second-degree domestic violence assault, drive-by shooting, making a false statement, harassment, and possession of a stolen firearm. The prosecutor argued that Kirkland posed an extreme risk to Michelle's safety, citing his alarming risk assessment score of 31 on a scale of 1 to 18. The judge set his bail at $100,000 and issued a domestic violence no-contact order. However, Kirkland violated the order within hours. From the Clark County Jail, he called Michelle twice, blaming her for his arrest and pressuring her to get the charges dropped. Michelle responded that she was trying her best. Despite these violations, Kirkland was released on bail later that day, but was cited in court for breaching the no-contact order. In response, the court raised his bail and ordered GPS monitoring on March 6th. Shockingly, the case was dismissed the following day, and Kirkland was never fitted with the GPS monitor, leaving Michelle and Layla vulnerable to further danger. Given Kirkland's troubling history, he became the primary suspect in the investigation into the disappearance of Michelle and Layla. Authorities swiftly obtained a search warrant for his house and car, hoping to uncover evidence that could lead to the missing mother and daughter. On March 19th, they arrested Kirkland once again, this time for violating the no-contact order, as the investigation into his possible involvement in the disappearance intensified. This arrest provided police with the crucial opportunity to question Kirkland about the disappearance of Michelle and Layla. Investigators hoped that their interview would uncover vital information to shed light on the mother and daughter's whereabouts and Kirkland's potential involvement in their case. During questioning, Kirkland suggested that Michelle's ex-husband might be involved in her and Layla's disappearance. However, police had already visited her ex-husband and confirmed that neither Michelle nor Layla was with him. Unlike Kirkland, Michelle's ex-husband had no outstanding no-contact orders against him, further diminishing the credibility of Kirkland's claim. Kirkland attempted to portray himself as a reformed man, perhaps not an upstanding citizen, but someone striving to turn his life around and comply with the conditions of his previous legal troubles. However, this facade was far from the truth. Investigators had uncovered additional information about Kirkland that painted a much darker picture, making him an even more suspicious figure in Michelle and Layla's disappearance. Kirkland hadn't left Arkansas simply for a fresh start on the western seaboard. He had fled to escape a dark and incriminating past. In November 2017, 57-year-old Curtis Urquhart went missing in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Earlier that year, Curtis had faced charges of second-degree forgery and theft of property. On December 11th, Curtis's body was discovered in a ditch, mutilated by wildlife. He had been shot in the head. Investigators learned that Curtis was last seen leaving a law office on November 27th with Kirkland, who was just 22 at the time. This immediately placed Kirkland under suspicion for the murder. During questioning, Kirkland admitted to killing Curtis. His disturbing Google search history included phrases like, how to get blood out of a car seat, how to beat murder, killing the only witness, and other chilling searches about evading justice. Kirkland claimed that Curtis had started demanding money from him while they were driving around after leaving the notary's office. Fearing for his life, Kirkland said he grabbed a handgun from under the driver's seat and shot Curtis in the head. He then disposed of Curtis's body in a ditch and drove away. Kirkland was subsequently charged with first-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. Despite the severity of these charges, he was released on a $250,000 bond. Sometime between 2018 and 2020, Kirkland moved to Washington State, where he not only failed to comply with the conditions of his bail, but continued a pattern of criminal behavior, culminating in further suspicions surrounding Michelle and Layla's disappearance. In 2020, Kirkland came under investigation by Vancouver police for possession of a stolen semi-automatic handgun. He eventually surrendered the weapon, but his criminal activity didn't stop there. In March 2021, he falsely stated on an application to purchase another semi-automatic handgun that he wasn't under indictment for a felony. The application was denied, but Kirkland still managed to acquire a gun. By December 2022, he used this weapon to shoot at Michelle's balcony window, a clear violation of the law and a chilling act of violence. Meanwhile, Kirkland's pending murder charge in Arkansas remained unresolved, and now his name was linked to the disappearance of Michelle and her daughter Layla. On March 17, 2023, the day before they were reported missing, an Arkansas judge revoked his bail in the murder case. 5 days later, on March 22nd, Kirkland appeared in court and admitted he was wanted in Arkansas but refused to waive extradition, preventing his immediate transfer to authorities there. The judge ordered that he be held without bail. Tragically, that same day, the investigation took a grim turn when 2 bodies were discovered, forever linking Kirkland to a case that had already shaken the community. Both Michelle and Layla were found to have died from gunshot wounds to the head. Michelle had been shot once, while Layla had suffered 2 gunshot wounds and had also been assaulted. This devastating discovery added a horrifying layer to an already tragic case. Investigators armed with this evidence approached Kirkland during their interrogation, determined to uncover the truth behind of the mother and her young daughter. During the interrogation, Kirkland attempted to redirect the conversation to his past charges, including the murder in Arkansas, a case he had already confessed to. However, investigators remained focused on the current case, which bore chilling similarities to the killing of Curtis Urquhart. Just like Curtis, Michelle and Layla had been shot in the head and their bodies left in a ditch. The parallels were undeniable, painting a disturbing pattern of violence that linked Kirkland to this new and horrific crime. The investigator pressed Kirkland to confess, urging him to come clean about the tragic fate of Michelle and Layla. Despite the mounting evidence and the undeniable parallels to his past crimes, Kirkland steadfastly refused to admit any involvement, maintaining his silence in the face of the accusations. Kirkland requested an attorney, halting further questioning, but the evidence against him continued to pile up, pointing to his involvement in the murders of Michelle and Layla. On March 13th and 15th, he texted a friend, asking about secluded areas such as woods or places where he could bury a gun. Additionally, on March 15th, he transferred $4,200 from Michelle's bank account to his own using her phone. On March 18th, he texted another friend saying, "I need to get rid of this stolo," using slang for a stolen car. Investigators suspected he was referring to the burgundy Dodge Charger Michelle and Layla were last seen in. When police searched the vehicle, they found shell casings, a large blue tarp, and traces of Michelle and Layla's blood. The evidence strongly suggested that the car had been the site of the murders. Police also spoke with Joe, the friend whose house Michelle and Kirkland stayed at on the night of March 11th. Joe recalled that the two left the house around 5 a.m. on March 12th, saying they were going out to make money. Kirkland returned to the house at about 8 a.m. in his car, blasting loud music. Michelle was in the passenger seat, naked from the waist down and appearing to be unconscious. When Joe reached into the car to turn the music down, Kirkland yelled at her to close the car door. Unaware of the gravity of the situation, Joe handed Layla's kitten, Rocky, to Kirkland before he drove off. This critical timeline and the mounting physical evidence painted a devastating picture of what had happened to Michelle and Layla. Kirkland often took Layla to school, and she trusted him like a father. On that fateful morning, when she got into his car, she had no way of knowing the horror that awaited her. Unbeknownst to Layla, her mother was already dead in the front seat. At just 6 years old, Layla's life was full of promise, innocence, and joy. A bright future cruelly and tragically stolen in an act of unimaginable betrayal. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Kirkland changed his story. He claimed that he had given Michelle a pistol for protection, vaguely alluding to her line of work. According to his new version of events, the two had been arguing in the car that morning about his second cell phone. During the argument, Michelle allegedly fumbled with the gun and accidentally shot Layla twice before turning the weapon on herself. However, this explanation raised more questions than it answered. Why would he try to hide the bodies if it were truly an accident? And how could the circumstances so closely mirror the 2017 murder of Curtis Urquhart? The coincidences were too significant to ignore. Ultimately, Kirkland Warren had no choice but to plead guilty. He admitted to the murders of Mashai and Layla and entered an offered plea to the charge of assaulting Layla. This plea allowed him to maintain his innocence while still accepting the legal consequences of his actions. For these heinous crimes, Kirkland was sentenced to life in prison, ensuring he would never harm another innocent life again. The tragic story of Mashai Melendez and her young daughter Layla is a haunting reminder of the devastating impact of violence and betrayal. 2 lives full of promise were stolen, leaving a family and a community shattered. While Kirkland Warren's conviction provides a measure of justice, it cannot undo the pain of this unimaginable loss. Mashai and Layla's memories serve as a call to action, reminding us to remain vigilant and to support those who may be in danger, ensuring their voices are not silenced before it's too late. Their story will not be forgotten, standing as a somber warning of the darkness that can hide behind a seemingly ordinary facade.